Chapter 437. 111. Just as the 5 giants were staring at Chu Bei with unwillingness, all of the ancient altars in the 8 regions trembled at the same time. Then, an enormous image shot out from above. Within the image, there was a continuous mountain range. However, the strange thing was that the center of the mountain range was not a peak, but rather an enormous 5-finger imprint that caved in. That's the mysterious region's immortal mountain. Heavens, how did the immortal mountain turn into ruins? A few supreme experts recognized the location of the projection. They were all shocked, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. Hong long long. The image trembled and swayed. An ear-splitting rumbling sound rang out from within. In the distant sky above the 5-finger imprint, an incomparably enormous gate appeared. An enormous dazzling halo appeared within the gate. Golden multicolored light flourished, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was as if it was going to fill the boundless world. At this moment, all of the mysterious region's cultivators could feel the boundless aura spreading from within the gate. This terrifying aura was as if an unimaginably terrifying existence was about to appear in this world. Did the ancestor's true body descend this time? As expected, he still came. Within the martial imperial manner, Qin Yining raised her head towards the sky. Her face was filled with fear. Didn't he already lose to our benefactor once? With our benefactor here, he won't be able to do anything. Shi Xiling hugged Qin Yining and said, "No, it's different this time. My clan has battle clothes. Rumor has it that it is a completely awakened supreme artifact. Last time, the ancestor suffered a loss. This time, he definitely brought the battle clothes with him." Qin Yining muttered. Did another giant descend into the lower realm? Look at this gate. Its aura seems to be much more powerful than the previous giant. Under the shocked gazes of countless cultivators, countless symbols flickered within the enormous gate above the mysterious region's immortal mountain. It flickered with the light of the great Tao. It was as if a river of stars was born and extinguished. Terrifying fluctuations and incomparable aura interweaved together. The void was like a tattered picture scroll. It trembled within the strange light mist and made walala sounds. Upon closer inspection, those natural laws were cryptic and profound. They swirled with gorgeous divine radiance. It was extremely terrifying. Immortal heavenly deity! The giants from the higher realms who were searching for opportunities in the mysterious region recognized that gate. Their voices carried astonishment. Chi La! Finally, the door was completely formed. A black tiger that was tens of thousands of feet long and had a pair of wings appeared in the sky. Its wings were like clouds that hung down from the sky, and they carried a terrifying black light. With a flap of his wings, thunderclouds filled the sky, and the sky shattered. This was an extremely terrifying scene. Just the flapping of the black tiger's wings caused space to swiftly crack apart as if it was porcelain, and it even extended into the distance. Ancient vicious beast, black-winged tiger! It actually willingly became someone else's mount. When the group of venerables saw the giant winged tiger that was emitting black light, they were all in a daze. Where are you? Just when the gazes of all the cultivators from the 8 clans were gathered on the black-winged tiger, an illusory voice that was difficult to capture yet was like rumbling thunder drifted out from the Xian region to the entire 8 regions. As the ethereal voice fell, the talisman light in the distant sky poured down onto the earth, accompanied by the incomprehensible chanting of scriptures. In the next moment, an enormous figure appeared above the black-winged tiger, and it stood on the back of the tiger. Its entire body was coiled with a dazzling silver halo, and it was like a god that was patrolling the 3 dimensions. Oh my god! This higher realm's giant's aura is far greater than the other giants. Could it be that even though they are all giants, the difference in strength between them is like heaven and earth? Who is he looking for? The 8 regions' cultivators all stared at the figure standing on the back of the tiger in the distant sky. While they were shocked, they also felt a bit of confusion. Immortal heavenly deity, why did he descend? If I remember correctly, he hasn't descended into the lower realms for close to 8,000 years. When did his mount change from a heavenly luan to a black-winged tiger? Could it be that the heavenly luan betrayed him? Ha ha! Didn't you all notice that his inheritance in the lower realms Xian region was turned into ruins? From what I know, half a month ago, his incarnation descended into the lower realms, but it was destroyed by someone in the Xian region. What? There was something like this. No wonder he came with heaven overflowing anger. I never expected the Xian region to hide such a terrifying existence. As expected, the lower realms' 8 regions aren't as simple as we thought. The eyes of the higher realms giants from every corner of the 8 regions all gathered on immortal heavenly deity's body. Terrifying auras pervaded the air. Who exactly dared to provoke this old fella, even wiping out his lower realms' inheritance? Above the medicine capital, the 5 great overlord-level giants gave immortal heavenly deity a look, their eyes carrying strange expressions. Even though they were both at the self-release realm, the latter was a true veteran overlord. This was especially the case when the other party had a completely revived supreme being battle armor. 2,000 years ago, immortal heavenly deity relied precisely on this battle armor to kill another overlord-level giant. It was also because of that battle that the higher realms giants learned of the existence of this battle armor, establishing immortal heavenly deity's unshakable status in the higher realms. This was also why Immortal Mountain left behind inheritances in the lower realms, yet didn't perish in the great calamity. Let's fight again! Immortal heavenly deity shouted again. It was as if he found that person. 2 streaks of dim light shot towards the wasteland region. Could it be that the one who wiped out the Xian region's Immortal Mountain inheritance was this wasteland region's boss Chu? In other words, half a month ago, it was him who wiped out Immortal Heavenly Deity's clone. While looking at Immortal Heavenly Deity who appeared in the wasteland region from the Xian region, the higher realm giants of the 8 regions were first stunned. When they reacted, they all revealed looks of shock. Turns out they are the same person. Fortunately, there is only one existence in the lower realms that is beyond our control. Indeed, otherwise, the lower realms' 8 regions would truly be too terrifying. The Primal Chaos Spiritual Master, Black Gold Sparrow, and the other giants were also shocked by Immortal Heavenly Deity's sudden descent. At this moment, above the medicine capital, Immortal Heavenly Deity stood on the black-winged tiger. He didn't pay the Primal Chaos Spiritual Master and the other giants any attention. His cold eyes shot towards Chu Bei's body. He didn't say a word, but his aura became more and more condensed. You changed your mount so quickly? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Immortal Heavenly Deity with ridicule. Come and fight! When he heard Chu Bei's mocking words, Immortal Heavenly Deity released a cold snort. His face became increasingly overcast, becoming extremely ugly. This time, you must have something to rely on, right? Chu Bei looked at Immortal Heavenly Deity. His smiling expression seemed as if he didn't treat the other party as an opponent at all. Once we fight, you'll know! Immortal Heavenly Deity released a cold snort. His figure turned around and tore open the heavens. He stepped on the black-winged tiger and appeared in the battlefield outside this region. There was an ancient and majestic arena in the battlefield. Crazy winds whistled around the arena, and various great stars could be seen moving about. When Immortal Heavenly Deity descended on the arena, a wave of terrifying aura completely erupted. It was incomparably oppressive. At their cultivation realm, when their cultivation was restrained, their body and heart would be as calm as a spiritual lake, elegant and otherworldly. However, once they erupted, it would be like an immortal sword cutting through the void. It was terrifying to the extreme. He has become more and more terrifying. Even without the support of the battle armor, he is still not someone we can compare to. Looking at the figure on the arena outside this region, the Primal Chaos Spiritual Master released a sigh of admiration. Immediately, Immortal Heavenly Deity's entire body was wrapped in scarlet energy. His flesh contained surging spiritual essence, making him look like a hibernating true dragon. Why didn't you have your mount test this great one out first? Are you scared that it will follow in that bird's footsteps? When his voice that carried a smile fell, Chu Bei also landed on the arena outside this region. Die. When he heard Chu Bei's words, immortal heavenly deity's killing intent completely erupted. His eyes revealed radiance. 2 streaks of silver-white light flew out from his pupils, unexpectedly turning into 2 silver phoenixes. They carried heaven-overflowing white flames as they rushed murderously towards Chu Bei. When they saw this, the spectating giants were all shocked. They clearly didn't expect immortal heavenly deity to directly use such terrifying methods. A great battle immediately erupted. The cultivators of the lower realm's 8 regions even more so looked at the scene projected from the heavens with stupefied expressions. Their eyes focused on immortal heavenly deity's body, and their mouths were wide open. The other party only focused his eyes, yet it created such a terrifying scene. His pupils contained silver ancient phoenixes. It was truly shocking to the extreme. The heavenly phoenix's power has already reached great success. The ancient dual-pupiled woman's emotions fluctuated. This bit of strength is far from enough. Chu Bei pointed forward and struck out. The entire battlefield outside this region suddenly erupted with a clap of thunder, shaking everyone from the 8 regions until their ears rang and their bodies trembled violently. Then, 2 incomparably dazzling golden divine chains streaked across the sky like lightning, piercing towards immortal heavenly deity's eyes. Wherever the divine chains passed, the leaves formed from the ripples of the void would flutter about like a majestic downpour. They also carried blazing light as they annihilated the boundless heaven-overflowing flames. Immortal heavenly deity frowned. His eyes moved about, and dense patterns appeared. His pupils turned into a snow-white phoenix. With a shake of his wings, he faced Chu Bei's 2 golden divine chains. After blocking the golden divine chains, immortal heavenly deity released a cold shout. His body directly turned into a heavenly phoenix. Following a cry, his wings spread out. Dazzling white light and heaven-overflowing silver flames swooped down towards Chu Bei. This was the heavenly phoenix precious technique. It was extremely famous in the higher realms, and it had been cultivated to great success by immortal heavenly deity. His divine force was matchless. The instant immortal heavenly deity released his attack, the void seemed to have been locked down. Time seemed to have stopped, and everything became deathly still. Above the medicine capital, the 5 giants and the ancient dual-pupiled woman all held their breaths. Their eyes swirled with radiance as they locked onto the battlefield outside this region. The cultivators of the 8 regions were even more nervous. Their eyes didn't even blink as they stared at this world-shaking strike. Immortal Ancient's famous heavenly phoenix precious technique erupted with dazzling brilliance in immortal heavenly deity's hands. A full-force strike shook the sun, moon, and stars. This precious technique itself is not bad, but in your hands it is still a bit lacking. Different from the shock of the higher realms giants, Chu Bei's expression was still as calm as before. There wasn't much change in his expression from start to finish. Only, when the heavenly phoenix arrived, the primal chaos around it surged, and then it turned into a 5-clawed divine dragon that faced it head-on. Golden scales covered its green body. All life source energy swirled about, stirring up great Tao divine force. Pun! Above the arena outside this region, the heavenly phoenix and divine dragon interweaved and collided. It was as if a tsunami was smashing against the shore, as if rocks were collapsing the clouds. Divine force surged in all directions, and holy light could be seen everywhere. It swept through everything like rotten weeds. Under this terrifying collision, the dusky starry sky outside this region was covered in a dense expanse of white radiance. The spectating cultivators of the 8 regions felt a piercing pain in their eyes. They couldn't open their eyes, and those who weren't strong enough even began to unknowingly shed tears. Phoenix cries shook the 9 heavens. The divine dragon soared 90,000 li. The 2 vicious birds fought, producing terrifying irregular scenes. It was as if they had returned to the immortal ancient era. Savage beasts ran amok there, and divine birds covered the heavens. They tore apart the cosmos, shattering great stars one after another. Hong Long! Another heaven-shocking explosion sounded. The white radiance scattered. This time, the heavenly phoenix flew outwards, and then it returned to immortal heavenly deity's appearance. Its chest rose and fell violently, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Its face became deathly pale. When it stabilized its body, it stopped in the middle of the collapsed void. It stared fiercely at Chu Bei, its killing intent chilly. As for the divine dragon Chu Bei produced with Xiao Hei's power, it released a proud dragon cry that reverberated through the 8 regions. Then, it turned into ripples and disappeared. Immortal heavenly deity cultivated the heavenly phoenix precious technique to great success, yet he was still defeated. Supreme Being! Could it be that he has already stepped into this cultivation realm? Fortunately, when he obtained the first spiritual root, I held back and didn't make a move. Otherwise, I fear that I really would have to stay in this lower realm forever. Since the ancient era, supreme beings have always left behind illustrious reputations. Why have I never heard of this boss Chu before? In this terrifying confrontation, immortal heavenly deity was defeated. The group of giants immediately revealed looks of disbelief. When they looked at Chu Bei again, their eyes carried a bit of restraining fear and dread. This boss Chu was a supreme being. Only a supreme being that ruled over the world could defeat immortal heavenly deity who cultivated the heavenly phoenix precious technique to great success. You still want to rely on your own strength? Chu Bei looked at the distant immortal heavenly deity with disdain and said, "Stop hesitating. Let this great one see what you are relying on." When he heard Chu Bei's words, immortal heavenly deity slightly closed his eyes. Then, he took a deep breath. "Chun!" Suddenly, a sharp and clear metallic sound rang out from behind immortal heavenly deity and spread through the 8 regions. Then 9 divine feathers appeared. They were extremely beautiful, and the radiance they released possessed a strange power. It was as if they could bring back flesh and bones from the dead and overflow with vitality. Following the appearance of the 9 divine feathers, immortal heavenly deity's pale face recovered its color. His chaotic aura stabilized once again. This was the rebirth power of the heavenly phoenix. In just a few breaths of time, all of the injuries immortal heavenly deity received from the previous collision were completely healed. "Fight with everything I have." Immortal heavenly deity looked at Chu Bei again, as if he had made some kind of difficult decision. When the 4 cold syllables sounded, specks of golden light appeared on the surface of immortal heavenly deity's body. These golden lights seemed to be formed from the power of the stars. As time went on, more and more appeared. They gathered on immortal heavenly deity's 4 limbs, chest, and back. Even his head was surrounded by these golden lights. 1. Following a strange sound, these golden lights suddenly became tangible, turning into resplendent golden battle clothes. They wrapped around immortal heavenly deity from all directions. "Clothes for me." Immortal heavenly deity roared towards the sky. His voice carried a mournful howl, as if he was suffering some kind of painful torment. The roar was world-shaking. It traveled from the battlefield outside this region into the lower realm's 8 regions. Not only did it intimidate all of the cultivators, even the higher realms' giants felt their minds tremble. Chapter 438. On the battlefield, the golden armor around immortal heavenly deity's body became thinner and thinner. Every inch of his body was releasing golden radiance. It was extremely dazzling, and in the end, it formed a golden sea. It was as if raging waves were beating against the shore. When the golden armor completely covered immortal heavenly deity's body, his aura suddenly increased several times, reaching an unimaginably terrifying level. It was as if he had evolved. At this moment, perhaps because he merged with the golden armor, immortal heavenly deity's skin also became golden. He only moved his muscles and bones slightly, but his entire body released grinding sounds. At the same time, a wave of vicious and berserk terrifying aura spread outwards. "Fight again!" Immortal heavenly deity's eyes shot out 2 specks of golden light, landing on Chu Bei's body. A shout that seemed to have originated from the ancient great wastelands resounded through this region of space. Terrifying sound waves seeped into the 8 regions, causing countless mountain ranges to collapse. At this moment, immortal heavenly deity, who had merged with the golden armor, was like a primordial beast that had just awoken from a deep slumber. The roar carried a heart-palpitating cruelty and ruthlessness, as if it was filled with endless destruction and slaughter. The source of the roar seemed to represent the world's most terrifying calamity. This aura, he has also entered the Supreme Being realm. Different from Boss Chu, immortal heavenly deity is borrowing the power of the Supreme Being battle armor. Next is a battle between Supreme Beings. It is different from last time when he used the Supreme Being battle armor. This time, immortal heavenly deity has practically sacrificed himself to the Supreme Being battle armor. Even if he wins this battle, there is no way he can enter the Supreme Being realm in this lifetime. However, if he doesn't do this, what other methods does he have to defeat Boss Chu? When they sensed immortal heavenly deity's aura, the spectating giants all felt their hearts tremble. That giant from the higher realms has become stronger with the help of the golden armor. Senior shouldn't be defeated, right? Within Stone Country Imperial Palace, a group of supreme experts looked at each other, revealing looks of worry. I believe in Master. He will definitely win. Sure Hao raised his fist. What do you all think about this situation? Above the medicine capital, the primal chaos spiritual master looked towards the other four giants. A battle between supreme beings. Who can say for sure? The four giants' brows tightly furrowed. Their eyes were always focused on the battlefield outside this region. Now that's interesting. Chu Bei put away his playful expression and became serious. He began to treat the upcoming battle seriously. Immortal heavenly deity coldly looked at Chu Bei. With a wave of his hand, the 9 divine feathers behind him changed from multicolored to pitch black like ink. In the end, they turned into 9 black divine swords that carried with them an aura of death. Life and death could intertwine. The divine feather that was originally filled with the power of nirvana was instantly filled with the aura of death. With the cry of a phoenix, the 9 black divine swords shot towards Chu Bei like rainbows piercing through the sun. They were like 9 black rainbows piercing through the sky. It was the same heavenly phoenix precious technique, but when the previous immortal heavenly deity and the current immortal heavenly deity displayed it, the difference was simply like heaven and earth. Clang! Chu Bei stood in the air above the arena. The primal chaos around him surged again, producing 9 great divine weapons. There was a golden Tao bell, green immortal suppressing pagoda, purple golden gourd, scarlet 8 trigrams furnace, and others. They lined up together to face immortal heavenly deity's 9 black divine swords. Dong! The battlefield was torn apart. The enormous opening was like the opening of heaven and earth. Chaotic energy erupted. One could vaguely hear the roars and roars of gods and devils. There were Buddhas chanting and demonic masters chanting. The scene was bizarre and terrifying. With Chu Bei as the starting point and immortal heavenly deity as the ending point, divine force surged between the two. The natural laws of heaven and earth interweaved like a spider web. Inside the battlefield, phoenix cries resounded. Immortal heavenly deity turned into a silver phoenix again, surging about in the starry domain. Flames covered the skies as he continuously attacked Chu Bei. Every inch of Chu Bei's body was releasing a deep white radiance. It was extremely brilliant, and in the end, it formed a translucent sea of ripples. Inside of it was heaven-destroying and earth-destroying chaotic energy. Ah! Immortal heavenly deity roared. Unmatched precious techniques shot out one after another, determined to kill Chu Bei. Chu Bei was fearless. His eyes similarly carried fighting intent. It was clear that he was also fighting with true fury. The Xiao Hei's power that he transferred frantically spun about, continuously releasing terrifying energy that tore apart space one after another. In the foreign battlefield, the terrifying battle became more and more intense. The two tangled with each other. One after another, the foreign arenas were blasted apart. Currently, Chu Bei could transfer Xiao Hei's power to fight against the Heavenly Phoenix's precious technique released after merging with the Supreme Battle Armor. It was a confrontation between chaotic energy and Heavenly Phoenix's power. It was a great confrontation between peak divine abilities. The two were locked in battle. It had to be said that immortal heavenly deity's strength after merging with the supreme battle armor was truly terrifying. In Chu Bei's opinion, the other party might have already reached the third-rank half-emperor level of the heaven-shrouding plane. This was especially true after transforming into a heavenly phoenix. Every time its sharp claws slashed down, there was nothing it couldn't destroy. The sky continuously collapsed. Even though he had the system's absolute defense, he was still shaken until he swayed. This was the most satisfying battle he had fought since coming to the perfect plane. Even though he used all of his strength, he still couldn't take down the other party. Is this a battle between supreme beings? Even though there's only a difference of a single realm, their fighting strength is like heaven and earth. Above the medicine capital, the black gold sparrow's eyes were focused on the battle in outer space, its expression absent-minded. If it faced the sharp claws of immortal heavenly deity's heavenly phoenix, it might instantly die. The difference in strength was just too great. Within 1,000 years, I will definitely strive for the position of Supreme Being. While in shock, Primal Chaos' spiritual master's fists were tightly clenched, his eyes carrying excitement and yearning. It wasn't just the 5 great self-release realm giants above the medicine capital. The other giants of the 8 regions were also shocked by the terrifying battle in outer space. For them, this was the first time they truly witnessed a battle between supreme beings, witnessing the terror of supreme beings. Are these the supreme beings recorded in ancient texts? Worthy of being the rulers of heaven and earth? The cultivators of the 8 regions were stupefied. This level of battle only existed in their imaginations. Perhaps it was because as time went on, the divine force granted by the supreme battle armor gradually weakened, but immortal heavenly deity who was originally evenly matched with Chu Bei began to show signs of defeat. Unfortunately, this wave of power isn't yours in the end. In the battlefield, Chu Bei's calm voice sounded. Immortal heavenly deity shouted loudly, his voice carrying great unwillingness. He could sense that the divine force within his body was weakening. The battle continued. The situation began to show a one-sided trend. In the end, immortal heavenly deity was injured. His face was pale, his lips tightly pursed. Wisps of blood flowed out from the corners of his lips. He was forcefully enduring, not letting blood spurt out, but in reality, he was already seriously injured. As for Chu Bei, Xiao Hei's power behind him swirled faster and faster. The fists he released were also more ferocious and domineering, as if he was the ruler of heaven and earth, able to kill all who didn't submit. Pooh! Another vicious strike was released. Immortal heavenly deity couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood from the fist's radiance, his body swaying. It isn't over yet! Chu Bei released a light shout, his voice like thunder. The void rumbled with wung-wung sounds. His fists became even more resplendent, the 2 divine hammers formed from chaotic force about to smash through the 9 heavens 10 earths. Immortal heavenly deity whose divine force was continuously weakening found it hard to endure this world-destroying fist. He coughed out another 5 large mouthfuls of blood. It was incomparably beautiful, dyeing the skies red. When immortal heavenly deity's aura fell back to the self-release realm, the supreme being battle clothes that stuck to his body trembled, and then separated, floating in the void by themselves. Defeated, immortal heavenly deity was still defeated in the end. This supreme being battle clothes is still an external force, not enough to support him continuously using this supreme being power. If he could kill that boss Chu in the early stages, there wouldn't be this type of ending. Unfortunately, he couldn't. Is the supreme being battle about to end? While looking at the battlefield in outer space, the giants of the 8 regions were shocked, their eyes carrying pity for immortal heavenly deity. As the giant who had lived for the longest time in the higher realms, with the supreme being battle clothes, he could temporarily enter the supreme being realm. No one in the higher realms dared to provoke him. However, right now, he was going to nurse a grievance in the lower realms. The overlord of a generation was going to meet his end here. We won! Did you all see that? I told you that master would win! In Stone Country Imperial Palace, sure how excitedly pointed at the scene projected from the heavens, his expression stirred up. The supreme experts looked at each other and smiled. This was also the conclusion they wanted to see. Meanwhile, at this moment, in the battlefield in outer space, Chu Bei didn't chase after him. He seemed to have seen through something. His hands were behind his back, his eyes focused on immortal heavenly deity, quietly waiting. Chi! Blazing flames surged from immortal heavenly deity's body. Rebirth power appeared, and his injuries quickly healed again. The essence blood he coughed out before flowed in reverse, seeping back into his body. He slowly flew toward the golden battlesuit that was floating not far away. His injuries were clearly recovering, but his eyes were dim and filled with loneliness. And? What is he trying to do? The higher realms giants seemed to have sensed immortal heavenly deity's abnormality as well. Their mutters carried confusion. Have you thought things through? At this moment, a third voice sounded from the battlefield in outer space. It actually came from the golden supreme being battle clothes. Kill him! If you can't kill him, even if I turn into a ghost, I won't let you go! Immortal heavenly deity suddenly raised his head and roared towards the supreme being battle clothes. At the same time, he pointed at Chu Bei. His roar was filled with heaven overflowing killing intent. Don't worry, this king will naturally accomplish what he promised. The golden battle clothes released a low voice again. Immortal heavenly deity didn't say anything else. His hands only formed a strange imprint. Immediately afterwards, his entire body actually began to split into specks of light. Bloody mist surged, slowly entering the golden battle clothes. Immortal heavenly deity's soul could be vaguely seen being eaten away by the battle clothes bit by bit. Did you all hear that? That battle clothes actually spoke. It is actually a living creature. What exactly is immortal heavenly deity doing? Complete sacrifice. He is offering himself to the supreme being battle clothes. He is using his own life essence to revive the supreme being battle clothes' previous owner. The higher realms giants seemed to have seen through something. They cried out in alarm, their faces full of disbelief. Could it be that the battle still hasn't ended? Is an even more terrifying existence going to appear? Within Stone Country Imperial Palace, the smiles on the supreme experts' faces gradually froze. Their expressions became serious again, and worry appeared between their brows. When immortal heavenly deity had just merged with the golden battle clothes, he was already evenly matched with Boss Chu. If an even more powerful existence was revived, then wouldn't Boss Chu be defeated? When they thought of this, the supreme experts' hearts immediately rose to their throats. They looked at the battle clothes releasing golden radiance in the foreign battlefield with horror. 1-1. A wave of strange sounds rang through the air. Golden ripples rippled outwards. Under the horrified gazes of the giants and countless cultivators, immortal heavenly deity's soul and flesh were completely devoured by the supreme being battle clothes. Immediately afterwards, a figure appeared in front of the supreme being battle clothes. This was a vicious beast. Its head was shaped like a wolf's, but there was a pair of enormous and simple gray bull horns on its head. In addition, there was a vertical eye between its brows. It was incomparably savage. Its body was covered in black scales that were hard and chilly. They flickered like black gold, and there were long hairs between the scales that were scarlet red like blood. They were half a foot long. Behind it were 9 tails, and at the end of each tail was a vicious beast head that wasn't that large. It was shaped like a dragon's head, sinister and terrifying. That's a 9 netherworlds AO. One of the vicious 10 recorded in the ancient records. The legends are true. The vicious 10 actually really exist. The higher realms giants were first stunned, but when they recognized this vicious beast, some of them couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Chapter 439. Roar. The 9 netherworlds AO opened its malevolent mouth, releasing a low roar at Chu Bei. It was vicious to the point of making one tremble, vicious to the point of overflowing into the heavens. The aura it released was too terrifying. Even those in the 8 regions who were as powerful as the giants of the higher realms couldn't help but shiver and bow down in worship. Sensing the aura released by the 9 netherworlds Ao, Chu Bei's expression became serious. The other party was also a supreme being, but it was different from him who was at the bottom of supreme beings. Even among supreme beings, it was still an incomparably powerful existence. In terms of shrouded sky plane strength, the other party was already infinitely close to the lord of the restricted region who severed his own blade. It was above a 9th rank half-emperor and below a great emperor. Meanwhile, the power he could mobilize from Xiao He was roughly equivalent to a 6th rank half-emperor. Turns out the owner of this supreme battle armor is actually one of the archaic vicious 9 netherworlds Ao. All of the cultivators of the 8 regions looked at the 9 netherworlds Ao in horror. They couldn't believe that a mortal heavenly deity had revived a legendary existence. Roar! The 9 netherworlds Ao roared, its vertical eye revealing vicious light. It began to merge with the supreme battle armor. It had a wolf head, gray bull horns, dark golden scales, red hair, and 9 strange tails. These were all its distinctive features. This king has just agreed to his request, so you must die. After merging with the supreme battle armor, the 9 netherworlds Ao suddenly looked at Chu Bei, its eyes erupting with bloody light. Its ice-cold voice carried killing intent that made one shiver. Chu Bei's expression became serious. His aura also rose to the peak, making preparations for a great battle. Die! A cold voice filled the air. The 9 netherworlds Ao threw itself at Chu Bei, arriving in the blink of an eye. Fight! Chu Bei's expression was serious. His 5 fingers spread out, using the power of primal chaos to tear apart the heavens. He pulled out the 5 elements divine lightning of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and concentrated it on this vicious 10 that overflowed into the heavens. Pun! Facing the 5 elements divine lightning, the 9 netherworlds Ao didn't dodge. The half-foot-long red hair on its body stood on end, and then it shot out, actually repelling all of the lightning and destroying the 5 elements, divine lightning. As expected of one of the archaic 10 vicious. The big shots from the upper realm who were watching the battle were shocked. Boss Chu's 5 elements divine thunder was terrifying enough. It was like a divine punishment from the heavens. If they were to face it, they would be severely injured even if they didn't die. However, the 9 netherworlds python had easily resolved the crisis by shooting out a strand of hair. Roar! The howls of the 9th hell scorpions continued as before, causing countless stars to tremble, while the primeval arena rustled as numerous long rifts split open from within. It was too savage. Its sharp teeth flickered with cold radiance, as if they were daggers. Green ripples were released from the wolf's mouth, unstoppable, the heavens collapsing. All the cultivators of the 8 regions were shocked. The roar of the 9 netherworlds Ao was too terrifying. Even though the other party was in the battlefield outside the realm, blood still flowed from the ears of countless people. They were shaken to the point where they almost fainted. They didn't dare to imagine what would happen if such a sound wave appeared in the 8 regions. Even someone as strong as a venerable would be instantly shattered like an ant. Explode! Chu Bei let out a loud shout. The primal caves behind him spun crazily, distorting a corner of the heavens. In the next moment, Chu Bei clenched his fists, crossed them, and suddenly hammered the void beside him. Kacha! The instant Chu Bei's fists blasted out, the world suddenly became still. After the deathly stillness, the heavens seemed to have turned into glass, shattering one after another into thousands of pieces. The fragments of the heavens surged and gathered like a surging river, colliding with the roar of the python. An incomparably terrifying explosion occurred between the two. The sound waves collided, and terrifying energy interweaved. It didn't stop for a long time, and stars in the outer realm exploded one after another. At this moment, the power of Xiao He that Chu Bei had mobilized was evolving. It was like a true dragon in the sky, crossing the explosion zone. It formed a supreme fist imprint and blasted towards the 9 netherworlds Ao, taking the initiative to attack. His fists were wrapped in primal caves ripples like 2 small suns, releasing the most resplendent multicolored light. They blasted down, and just the wind from his fists already tore apart the heavens. "You're just a small success, Supreme Being. You're too confident." The 9 netherworlds AO roared, and the red hair all over its body stood up like steel needles. The pair of huge gray horns on its head emitted a hazy radiance. It leaped up and faced Chu Bei head-on. Clang! Chu Bei's fists collided with the horns of the 9 netherworlds AO. The sound split the universe, and the aftermath tore apart the heavens. Terrifying splendor splashed in all directions, like meteors streaking across the sky one after another. Whoosh! In the collision, the primal chaos light outside Chu Bei's body was pierced through by the horns of the 9 netherworlds AO, and the sharp horns pierced Chu Bei's fists with cold light. At this moment, Chu Bei only felt a stinging pain on his fists, and blood flowed down. The killing power contained in the horns was too terrifying, so much so that his fists were injured in the head-on collision. Bang! The 9 netherworlds AO roared, and its whole body released a resplendent golden light. With a boom, it blasted Chu Bei back. When he looked at the 9 netherworlds AO again, its horns were unharmed. That was the toughest part of its body. How could this be? "Senior, he seems to be bleeding. So this is one of the vicious 10? It really is too terrifying." In Stone Country Imperial Palace, a group of supreme experts stared at the battlefield in the sky without blinking. When they saw Chu Bei's fists dripping with blood, their expressions immediately changed greatly. Even Sure Hao's face revealed a look of worry. His small hands pinched the corners of his clothes, and he was incomparably nervous. Worthy of being the 9 netherworlds AO whose vicious reputation shook the past and present. Truly terrifying. Above the medicine capital, the 5 giants looked at each other. They weren't too shocked by the current situation. After all, even though this boss Chu was also a supreme being, there weren't many records of him in the long river of history. In their opinion, there were definitely even more terrifying supreme beings in the other party's era that suppressed his limelight, which was why there weren't any records of him. Meanwhile, the archaic Vicious 10, every time they appeared, they would become the most powerful experts of their era. Their illustrious names had been passed down from the ancient times until now. Right now, this boss Chu was at a disadvantage, which was within reason. The ancient dual-pupiled woman shot a glance at the 9 netherworlds AO, and then she looked at Chu Bei. A sea of stars swirled within her eyes, and she remained silent. "I'll help you." At this moment, the desolate tower spoke. It immediately disappeared from above the medicine capital, and when it reappeared, it had already landed beside Chu Bei. "You fell to the self-release realm, yet you still want to interfere and help with your current state? Truly laughable." The 9 netherworlds AO shot a glance at the desolate tower. As if it knew the other party's background, it released a cold snort in disdain. "I don't need anyone else's help with my matters." Chu Bei's voice was calm. Ripples adhered to the surface of his fist, and the wound on it healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Where does your confidence come from?" The 9 netherworlds AO's eyes revealed an ominous glint. Its 2 horns were like heavenly blades as it attacked Chu Bei again. "9 netherworlds slash!" The 9 netherworlds AO roared loudly. It appeared in front of Chu Bei, its 9 tails all stabbing forward like a scorpion's tail, fast and vicious. However, it was much more terrifying than a scorpion's tail, because at the end of each tail was a dragon head, sinister and terrifying. At this moment, the 9 dragon heads all opened their mouths, spitting out a sharp blade flickering with cold light. It swept towards Chu Bei's body. The two were so close. The 9 cold blades arrived in the blink of an eye, impossible to avoid. Chu Bei's brows furrowed slightly. He immediately transferred Xiao Hei's power, forming an enormous chaotic barrier around his body. Pun pun pun! The 9 dragon heads spat out cold blades, striking the chaotic barrier from different directions. Within the Kingchong sounds, dragon cries sounded, and the heavens collapsed. Kacha! Following a sharp shattering sound, the chaotic barrier in front of Chu Bei was finally shattered by the 9 cold blades. However, perhaps because breaking through the chaotic barrier consumed too much energy, these 9 cold blades were then shattered by Chu Bei's fist. The aura of your power is a bit strange. The 9 Netherworld's AO glanced at the chaos surging around Chu Bei. As its cold voice fell, its 9 tails swung. The 9 dragon heads at the end opened their mouths again, this time condensing a pitch-black ball of light in their mouths. Oh my God! It's rumored that when the 9 tails of the 9 Netherworld's AO appear, all the Supremes will have to retreat. Now it seems that it's true. These 9 tails have the power of 9 dragons. In the 8 regions, all the powerhouses of the upper realm looked at the 9 Netherworld's AO in horror, especially the 9 dragon heads on the other party's tails. The pitch-black ball of light that condensed seemed to be able to swallow the stars, eating the supreme expert alive. Above the medicine capital, the ancient dual-pupiled woman, the black golden sparrow, and the primal chaos spiritual master were all shocked. If it were any of them, they would not be able to escape from the 9 dragon heads. They would definitely be torn into pieces. Senior, can he block this attack? In the Stone Country Imperial Palace, a group of Supremes looked at Chu Bei in the projection with heavy expressions. Even though a battle between Supremes wasn't something they could predict, they could imagine that the 9 Netherworld's AO had already used its most powerful attack. Sure Hao also clenched his fists, and his small face became even more nervous. Chi! In the battlefield outside this region, the 9 dragon heads at the end of the 9 Netherworld's AO's tails moved closer to each other. The 9 black balls of light stuck together, and they began to merge amidst a terrifying and strange sound. Chapter 440. Die! In the extraterritorial battlefield, a cold voice came from the 9 Serenity's AO's mouth and spread throughout the 8 regions. In the next moment, the 9 black light balls condensed into a beam of light that crossed the sky and bombarded the defensive barrier that Chu Bei had created with Xiao Hei's power. Bang! The ripples shattered, and Chu Bei was sent flying. He smashed into a star, and the blood in his chest boiled. Don't try to be brave. You're not his match. I can sublimate temporarily and have supreme power. We can only fight him if we work together. At this time, Huang Tao flew to Chu Bei's side and spoke again. Senior is really not the 9 Serenity's AO's match. Senior, will he fall? Damn it! I really want to fight alongside Senior. Looking at the battlefield in the projection, the Venerables were unwilling to accept the outcome. Their eyes were filled with hatred for the 9 Serenity's AO. Boss Chu, the supreme power of a generation, is going to end here? The upper realm giants sighed and felt sorry for Chu Bei. In the extraterritorial battlefield, Chu Bei's heart was filled with complicated feelings. The 10 primordial ferocious beasts were too powerful. They were so powerful that even if he used Xiao Hei's power, he was no match for them. Or rather, the Xiao Hei's power he used this time was not used against the 9 Serenity's AO. According to the system, Xiao Hei's power was stronger than the opponent's by 1 realm every time. He used Xiao Hei's power this time to fight against the upper realm giants, but the 9 Serenity's AO was 2 realms stronger than those giants. Thinking of this, Chu Bei shook his head and couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, he still had the right to use a level 19 product. Let's see what you're going to use this time. The defensive shield around Chu Bei's body was still slowly repairing itself. At that moment, the 9 Netherworld's AO had finished charging up again. The scales on its body flickered and formed a black light screen. The 9 dragon heads at the end of its tail stuck to the black light screen at the same time. Then, the 9 dragon mouths opened wide and spat out pitch-black balls of light. They once again intertwined and merged together, compressing into a terrifying beam of light. Am I being underestimated? The serious expression on Chu Bei's face suddenly disappeared. He glanced at the arrogant 9 nether python and the ancient desolate tower that was about to help. As Chu Bei's calm voice faded, an azure longsword appeared in his hand. The longsword vibrated, and dense blue spots of light appeared in the void battlefield. At the same time, a series of strange phenomena occurred to the cultivators of the 8 regions. Senior, what did he do? What is this blue-green light? Why did it fly from our bodies to Senior? To be more precise, it is flying towards the sword in Senior's hand. I don't know. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. There are no records of it in the ancient books. I don't feel the energy in my body decreasing either. I really don't understand. The venerables in the Stone Country Imperial Palace looked at each other and saw the strange light spots flying out of their bodies. They looked at each other in confusion. That sword, what kind of technique is this? Could it be that the situation will change? Above the medicine capital, the 5 overlords looked at the blue spots of light flying out of their bodies and the cultivators of the 8 regions. They frowned and were puzzled. Rumor has it that in the ancient times, there were immortals who could mobilize the power of all living beings for their own use. Could it be that this boss Chu has such a technique? The ancient woman with double pupils was in a daze, as if she had remembered some ancient secret. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Heavens, who are you? Have you been hiding your strength all this time? The ancient desolate tower floated beside Chu Bei in the foreign battlefield and said in a surprised voice. At this moment, the azure sword in Chu Bei's hand and his entire body were surrounded by a bluish-green light that surged from all directions. The tip of the sword in his hand spewed out a bluish-green pillar of light, like the Milky Way hanging upside down. This was a 19th grade killing item that he had purchased from the system. It was a sword that could mobilize the power of faith of all living beings. Die. Looking at the strange scene in front of him, the 9 netherworlds AO fixed its gaze on Chu Bei. After frowning, it let out a long roar. In the next moment, the balls of light that were spewed out from the 9 dragon mouths formed a terrifying black beam of light that pierced through the sky and shot toward Chu Bei. Boom! However, just as this terrifying beam of light was about to pierce through Chu Bei's body, Chu Bei opened his eyes. The sword in his hand trembled, and a bluish-green sword light shot out, directly facing the beam of light shot out by the 9 netherworlds AO. There was a deafening boom. The blue-green sword projection annihilated the terrifying beam of light with unparalleled power. This is impossible. The 9 netherworlds AO was shocked, and its expression changed drastically. It couldn't believe that the powerful attack that it had accumulated power for was so easily destroyed by the opponent's sword light. Roar! The 9 netherworlds AO roared. The scales on its body glowed, and its 9 tails shook, bursting with boundless divine light. 9 netherworld sky art. The 9 netherworlds AO roared. As its roar fell, the 9 dragon heads swayed, and each transformed into a true dragon, trapping Chu Bei in 9 directions. At the same time, it spewed blackish-purple flames from its mouth, burning Chu Bei in the bluish-green pillar of light. It wanted to refine him with the power of the 9 netherworlds. The 9 netherworld sky art obliterated and pulverized all things. This was a type of ultimate kill. However, to the 9 netherworlds AO's horror, no matter how its 9 netherworlds fire burned, it couldn't burn through the bluish-green light shield around the opponent's body. There's no meaning to this battle anymore. An indifferent voice sounded from the extraterritorial battlefield, and then drifted to the 8 regions. Although the voice was calm, it shook everyone's heart. In the buzzing sound, the bluish-green light around Chu Bei's body and the bluish-green pillar of light from the long sword in his hand instantly shrank into his body. In the next moment, Chu Bei took a step forward, and all the bluish-green light around him disappeared. However, the aura on his body changed at the same time. If Chu Bei was said to be powerful before, then the current Chu Bei gave off a very ordinary feeling. There was no trace of pressure on his body at all. However, if you really treated him as an ordinary person, you would find that there was an additional strange aura on his body, and you would inexplicably want to kneel down and worship him. In the extraterritorial battlefield, Chu Bei's robes fluttered without wind, and his hair was slightly raised. He held a long sword in one hand, and the other hand was behind his back as he walked in the void. With every step, a huge pitch-black gap would be torn open behind him. The gap was densely filled with black lightning and stars, releasing an unparalleled power. Roar! The 9 Nether AO roared and urged the 9 Nether Fire to continue burning Chu Bei. However, the 9 Nether Fire could not do anything to Chu Bei at all. It was completely useless. Whoosh! Chu Bei raised his hand and gently waved his sword. The 9 Nether Fire instantly dissipated. Dense spiderweb-like cracks spread in the flames, and in a moment, the 9 Nether Fire disappeared in the void. How could it be? Looking at the slowly floating figure, the 9 Nether AO finally showed a look of fear on its face. It could not understand. The other party was just an early-stage Supreme Being a moment ago, but in the next moment, he was already above it. It was as if he was standing at the peak of the Supreme Being realm, and had even broken through the Supreme Being realm. You have already done very well. Chu Bei looked at the 9 Nether AO calmly. As his emotionless voice fell, he pointed his finger. In the next moment, the 9 Nether AO let out a shrill scream. In an instant, its entire body was invaded by a terrifying invisible force. This force directly penetrated its hard scales and seeped into its body, tearing at its internal organs. In the painful howl, the 9 Nether AO twisted its body and roared. The 9 tails behind it swung wildly, and black balls of light condensed in the mouths of the 9 huge dragon heads. However, these terrifying balls of light, which had previously been able to pierce through the system's absolute defense, had been easily destroyed by Chu Bei before they could even land on his body. It was as if he had not expended the slightest bit of effort. Do you have any other tricks? Take advantage of the fact that I haven't killed him yet, and use it. Chu Bei had an indifferent look on his face. Ever since he held the Sword of Faith in his hand, the power in his body suddenly rose by several levels. Level 19. Not to mention Supreme Being, this was already above the true immortal realm, and was ranked as an immortal king. In short, the current him was a flawless immortal king. 9 Nether unite! Facing the current Chu Bei, the 9 Nether AO no longer had the slightest disdain on its face. Amidst the roar, the 9 huge tails swung about at a high frequency, emitting an ancient and strange sound. The rumbling sound was like the rumbling of heavenly thunder. In a desperate situation, it used an ancient technique, forming 9 seals in one breath. Each seal corresponded to a magical power. The 9 tails drew close, and the 9 magical powers merged here, releasing a dazzling light. It was as if heaven and earth were splitting apart, incomparable. Kill! The 9 Nether AO controlled the 9 precious techniques to combine into one. This was its most powerful attack, which had killed countless Supreme Beings. Facing the 9 Nether AO's attack, Chu Bei was calm and composed. He raised his hand and waved a blue sword light to meet the attack. Countless blue light spots could be vaguely seen rotating in the sword light. Boom! With a loud explosion, the extraterritorial battlefield completely collapsed, turning into white light. Nothing could be seen. Everyone subconsciously closed their eyes. After a long time, when they opened their eyes again, the projection of the void battleground had disappeared. How did the battle end? Where are they? Over there! When they snapped back to reality, the giants immediately searched for Chu Bei and the 9 Nether AO's figures. In the end, their eyes were cast towards Stone Country Imperial Palace. At this moment, above the Imperial Palace, Chu Bei's hands were behind his back. On his shoulder, the desolate pagoda floated back and forth. To his right floated a golden set of battle clothes. It was precisely the Supreme Being battle clothes. As for the left, an incomparably enormous energy sword radiance streaked across the heavens, piercing through a translucent object. Upon closer inspection, that so-called translucent object was precisely the 9 Nether AO's soul body. As for its flesh, it had already been destroyed in the previous collision. Master One! Master One! Inside Stone Country Imperial Palace, everyone looked at Chu Bei in the sky with stupefied expressions. It was still sure how who reacted first, crying out in alarm. His tender voice carried excitement and joy. Senior, congratulations! After Sure Hao, the Stone Emperor, Fire Emperor, Underworld King, Crack Demonic Butterfly, 9-Headed Lion, and other supreme experts snapped back to reality one after another. They bowed towards Chu Bei, their voices trembling. How did he do it? Just what kind of power is that? Or perhaps this is his true strength? Even though they are both supreme beings, the disparity in this realm is just too great. Above the medicine capital, the primal chaos spiritual master, Black Gold Sparrow, and the other overlords were in a daze. They had yet to recover from the previous supreme being battle. The situation had changed too quickly, especially when Boss Chu's strength had skyrocketed at the end. They were even more confused when they saw it. Could he really be an ancient immortal? The ancient dual-pupiled woman's expression was somewhat numb. She stared blankly at Chu Bei's back as she muttered to herself. Ao. Above Stone Country Imperial Palace, the 9 Nether Ao's soul body struggled and twisted, continuously roaring at Chu Bei. Chu Bei glanced indifferently at the 9 Nether Ao, then his gaze landed on the desolate pagoda. It will be your nourishment then. Such a great nourishment, you. Are you sure you want to give it to me? The desolate pagoda revolved around Chu Bei, unexpectedly making the sound of saliva swallowing as it asked with uncertainty. What? You don't want it? Chu Bei's lips curled into a smile. I want it, of course I want it. Your great kindness, I will engrave it in my heart, and I will definitely repay it if I have the chance. After confirming once again, the desolate pagoda flew above the 9 Nether Ao. Then, a huge mouth full of sharp teeth appeared from below the pagoda, directly swallowing the 9 Nether Ao's soul body. The 9 Nether Ao let out a painful scream, which was filled with intense killing intent. However, at this moment, it was extremely weak and had no strength to resist. It could only unwillingly become the desolate pagoda's nourishment. How savage! Seeing this scene, the Black Gold Sparrow above the medicine capital couldn't help but mutter, as if recalling the painful memory of being chased and eaten by the desolate pagoda. After successfully swallowing the 9 Nether Ao, the mysterious bone pagoda's entire body released a hazy fluorescent light, and then it slowly floated above Shirhao's head, as if it had eaten its fill and fallen into a deep sleep. You little fellows came down from the higher realms, so how long are you planning to stay? Suddenly, a voice full of supreme dignity was spat out from Chu Bei's mouth, resounding through every corner of the 8 regions. In the next moment, all the giants in the 8 regions, including the 5 overlords above the medicine capital, seemed to have been inexplicably pulled by an irresistible force, and they were instantly dragged away from their original places. Stone Country Imperial Palace, above the plaza, Chu Bei raised his right hand, and then pointed at the void in front of him. Suddenly, a huge ripple cage appeared in the void. Under the shocked gazes of the cultivators below, balls of light floated out from the opening in the cage one after another, and there were close to 30 of them. Are they the giants from the higher realms? The main culprits of the wasteland region's great calamity in the past. These giants seem to have come down to the lower realms to look for opportunities. The giants who tried to harvest us have all been killed by the senior. The Fire Emperor, Stone Emperor, 9-headed Lion, and the other supreme experts looked at the giants of the higher realms in the cage with astonishment, and they discussed in low voices. In your eyes, the 8 regions of the lower realms are the land of sinners, and the people of the lower realms are all sinners. Chu Bei calmly looked at the giants of the higher realms in the cage. What happened back then? How much do you juniors know? How much do you know about the truth of the matter? Since you didn't make a move against the cultivators of the 8 regions, this great one will let you go. In the future, you are not allowed to step into the 8 regions, or else you will be killed without mercy. Chapter 441. In the Ripple prison high up in the sky, the big shots, including the Primal Chaos Spiritual Master and Black Gold Sparrow, heard an indifferent voice. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. The truth of what happened back then. The big shots were shocked. Ever since they could remember, the lower realm was a prison for sinners. This idea was deeply ingrained in their minds. I'll be heading to the upper realm soon. You'll know some things then. Whether it's the lower realm's 8 regions or the 3,000 mystical provinces, we're all one. We have a common enemy. Chu Bei put his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Remember what I said just now. Don't come here again. As soon as his voice fell, Chu Bei did not give the group of giants any time to react. With a wave of his sleeve, the ripple cage brought the group of giants toward the door in the distant firmament with a whoosh. In a few breaths' time, the big shots from the upper realm were stuffed back into the door and disappeared. Countless cultivators in the 8 regions were stunned at first. It took them a long time to recover from their shock. Those big shots were all sent back by Boss Chu. The calamity is gone. Moreover, with Boss Chu's deterrence, those big shots won't dare to come down from the upper realm anymore. In that case, we won't have to go through such a calamity in the future. As we cultivate for longer, we'll have a chance to peek into the realm above the supremacy stage. Savior, Boss Chu is the savior of the 8 regions. Cultivators in every corner of the 8 regions were cheering. They looked at the disappearing image in the sky and shouted excitedly. Senior, thank you for saving our lives! In the palace, the supremacies exchanged glances and knelt toward Chu Bei at the same time. Their eyes were filled with sincerity. You still have a long way to go in the future. Chu Bei lifted the supremacies up. Senior, what's the realm above the supremacy stage? The Stone Emperor hesitated for a moment, but still asked in the end. Now that you've entered the supremacy stage, you're considered the top cultivators in the 8 regions. At this realm, you can be said to have transcended the mortal world and have the possibility of becoming a god. The next cultivation realm is the initial stage of igniting one's divine flame, transcending mortality and planting a Tao seed within one's body, which is also the divine flame realm. After the divine flame realm is the true self realm, completely igniting the divine flame. Only when the divine flame is extinguished will one be considered dead. After that was the heavenly god realm, where severed limbs could be regenerated, and a single drop of blood could collapse a mountain range. Next is the void path realm, where one can fuse with the Tao and comprehend the profound principles of the world. The weakest of the upper realm's big shots you saw earlier are in this realm. After that is the self-severing realm, also known as the path reasoning realm. Severing one's own body and understanding one's own path and method, most of the upper realm's great leaders are stuck in this realm. As for the next cultivation realm, it is precisely the self-release realm. The immortal heavenly deity you all saw before, as well as those individuals who fought over the first spiritual root in the medicine capital, they are precisely in this cultivation realm, overlords among giants. Next is the exalted realm, a realm that stands at the peak of the mortal Tao. Merely the pressure they emanate can intimidate all, and they can easily live for over 1,000,000 years. Chu Bei floated on a chair and glanced at the venerable ones. After explaining the division of realms, he picked up his tea and took a sip. So forget about half of the path of cultivation, it is actually just the beginning. After hearing Chu Bei's words, Stone Emperor, Fire Emperor, and the other venerable ones released sighs of admiration. Senior, the exalted realm should be the limit of cultivation, right? Also, is your respected self a peak exalted being? The 9-headed lion asked. The exalted being is merely the peak of the mortal Tao realm. Above this is the immortal Tao realm, but that is even further away from you all. As for this great one's cultivation realm, you all will have a chance to find out. Chu Bei's lips carried a smile. Towards these venerable ones' questions, he didn't go overboard. Time passed in a flash. 2 days passed. The universe's great wilderness, heaven, earth, profound, and yellow, the lower realm's 8 regions gradually calmed down. However, the great sects, heavenly paradises, and even the taverns on the streets were still discussing this great battle intensely. There were a few powers and ancient countries that even built new statues for Chu Bei to worship. Right now, within the martial imperial manor, Chu Bei was lying on an exquisite sandalwood chair, his eyes looking forward. He saw that Shirhao was currently refining himself within a great cauldron. This was an astonishing scene. He sat there. The liquid within the cauldron was brilliant. Stalk after stalk of precious medicine rose and fell around him. There was a black hound leaf vine, dazzling star grass, an entirely golden old ginseng, a blazingly flame spirit flower. These spiritual stalks were, without a doubt, all rare treasures. They were too extravagant and incomparably shocking. Even if the giants of the higher realms saw this, they would still be speechless. It was because there was no lack of existences even they desired among these spiritual stalks. Inside the medicinal cauldron, apart from all types of precious medicines, there were a few ores, medicinal bugs, and other things, for example, an arm-length scarlet centipede, a palm-sized silver pangolin, an entirely golden scorpion. All types of strange bugs rose and fell. Of course, the most precious one was still a divine bug. Its entire body was silvery white, and there was a Chilean diagram on its surface. It contained world-shocking medicinal effects. This was the black-scaled bug race's bug king that Chu Bei captured for Sure Hao. Gradually, the medicinal cauldron's liquid began to boil. Dense multicolored mists rose, creating a hazy expanse. It was as if this place was an immortal realm. All types of auspicious light surged. Sure Hao was boiled by the medicinal liquid. His flesh was scarlet red, as if he was about to be cooked through. In reality, it was his blood that was rushing about, cleansing every part of his body. Endure it and do as your master says. While looking at Sure Hao, who was clenching his teeth and frowning, his face full of pain, Chu Bei spoke at an appropriate time. When he heard Chu Bei's words, Sure Hao nodded. The void pill within his body spun, releasing void force. In addition, he borrowed the medicinal strength to continuously refine his body, using the great medicine as a guide to cleanse his flesh and bones to break through. Hong Long! Finally, following a muffled sound, Sure Hao's aura suddenly surged. Symbols covered his surroundings densely. They were incomparably brilliant, illuminating the void. 10 heavenly passages appeared. Now is the time! Following Chu Bei's voice, Sure Hao made a shocking move. The 10 heavenly passages ignited at the same time. He was sacrificing himself. If bystanders saw this, they would definitely be shocked. They would think that Sure Hao went crazy, and they would even think that Chu Bei was a mediocre teacher, not even caring about his disciple's life. However, the moment Sure Hao's 10 heavenly passages ignited, the void pill within his body released strands of ripples. They seeped into the 10 heavenly passages one after another, connecting them together. Time passed minute by minute. Sure Hao's 10 heavenly passages were damaged, and his body also suffered serious injuries. His blood energy was dried up, and his divine essence was severely depleted. However, if one looked carefully, they would discover that there was another small heavenly passage below the void pill. Meanwhile, the energy within the damaged 10 heavenly passages, under the guidance of the trembling force, all of it converged into the newly opened small heavenly passage. Merge! Sure Hao used the void force as a needle and thread, piercing through the 10 heavenly passages, connecting them together. In the end, they all merged into the new heavenly passage. Hong Long! Finally, under an ear-splitting great shout, the 10 heavenly passages completely merged into the new heavenly passage. That heavenly passage shone, and all types of irregular scenes could be seen within. It was hazy and mysterious to the extreme. The only heavenly passage, only one. Master, I've succeeded! Sure Hao suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at Chu Bei with incomparable excitement. At this moment, the medicinal cauldron was dried up. All of the medicinal characteristics had been completely absorbed by Sure Hao. Only a bit of medicinal dregs remained. Let your master try out the power of your only heavenly passage. Chu Bei looked at Sure Hao with gratification. Then, with a wave of his right hand, a vicious bird appeared from who knows where. The vicious bird was first stunned, and then it released a cry. It swooped down towards Sure Hao. Its wings released dark light, as if they were cast from metal. They carried a wave of vicious aura. Judging from its aura, this vicious bird's strength was at least equivalent to a human cultivator at the peak of the heavenly passage realm. Hao raised his head to look at this extremely vicious bird. He didn't move, allowing it to pounce over murderously. His only heavenly passage shone, surrounding him. Immortal multicolored light shone brilliantly, and auspicious light swirled about, making him look divine and aloof. His eyes were clear, and his pitch-black hair fluttered about in the wind. 1-1. Just as this vicious bird was about to smash into Hao with a might that could split apart mountains, its body entered the shining heavenly passage. It was as if it was plunged into a swamp, unable to break free. It found it difficult to breathe, and it was immediately restricted. Kacha kacha! The vicious bird's black feathers stood up, crying out softly. Fear appeared in its eyes, and it began to tremble. Before its cries could even drift outwards, its frozen body was mysteriously torn into several pieces by a wave of spatial force. Even when the vicious bird died, Hao didn't move at all. He used the power of his only heavenly passage and the power of the tremor fruit to kill it. Hao has entered the heavenly passage realm. Host's mission is complete. Reward: 1 use of a level 19 commodity. Hearing the system's voice, Bei smiled in satisfaction. That's right, after obtaining the first spiritual root, the mission was to help Hao enter the heavenly passage realm. As for the mission reward, it was still 1 use of a level 19 commodity. Mission 5 issued. Host excavates the immortal tomb to obtain the primordial energy. Before completing the mission, host can use the power of level 18 Xiaohe. Reward: 1 use of all heaven's reputation points. Soon after, the system's voice sounded again. Bei stared blankly for a moment. When he snapped back to reality, he looked at the red dot on the system map. His eyes then landed on Hao's body. Master, what are you thinking about? When he met Bei's eyes, Hao revealed a look of confusion. Bei beckoned towards Hao. Let's go. Follow your master on a new journey. A new journey? Master, where are you bringing your disciple? Hao widened his eyes, looking at Bei with curiosity. Don't you want to see the 3,000 Dao provinces where those giants are? Bei lightly patted Hao's head. Master, are you bringing me to the higher realms? Hao stared blankly at first, but when he reacted, his face became incomparably excited. When he saw Hao's face full of expectation, Bei smiled inwardly. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, a 7-colored passage appeared in front of him. This passage looked extremely long. It pierced through space, creating a hazy expanse. From time to time, stars flickered about, silver streams swirling about, the scene hazy. In a daze, Hao followed Bei into this 7-colored passage. Master, can you tell me a bit more about the higher realms? Inside the 7-colored passage, Hao tightly grabbed Bei's large hand, fearing that the spatial passage's energy would bring him to an unknown, mysterious place. This so-called higher realms is actually nothing more than a place within the 9 heavens 10 earths. This realm is also known as the 3,000 Dao provinces. This means that even a single province is larger than the 8 regions of the lower realms added together. Bei unhurriedly told Hao the information he knew about the 3,000 Dao provinces. What? A single province of the higher realms is larger than the 8 regions of the lower realms added together. Master, then these 3,000 provinces, just how vast of a territory would they be? If the even more vast and mysterious uninhabited regions your respected self spoke of is added, then this disciple simply doesn't dare imagine it. After listening to Bei's explanation, Hao was so shocked his mouth was wide open, stupefied, numb to the point where he was like a wooden person. He didn't really understand anything else, only knowing one thing. It was large. This so-called 3,000 Dao provinces was incomparably large. Chapter 442. However, look a bit further. The 3,000 Dao provinces is nothing more than a place within the 9 heavens 10 earths. Moreover, what truly makes unmatched experts yearn for is the immortal domain that borders the 9 heavens 10 earths realm sea. That is the place where your future belongs. Chu Bei picked up Shihao, pinching his fair and tender cheeks. Immortal domain? What kind of place is that? However, since Master said so, then this disciple will definitely go there. Master, did your respected self come from that place? Shihao clenched his fists, his eyes filled with yearning towards immortal domain. Then, he looked at Chu Bei with curiosity, asking this. Chu Bei shook his head. Master came from a place called High Heavens. That is the place where primal chaos truly began. High Heavens! This disciple will definitely cultivate properly. Not only will I go to immortal domain, I will also go to the place Master lives in to take a look. Shihao raised his fists, full of fighting spirit. How we are about to arrive at the 3,000 Dao provinces, Chu Bei said indifferently. When he heard this, Shihao released a heavy sound of acknowledgement, his head continuously pecking like a little chick. In this seven-colored passage, Shihao felt as if he was wandering through the long river of time, as if he passed through endless years. In the end, with a flash of light, he flew out of the spatial passage. Master, it feels so good! Boundless spiritual essence rushed over. Shihao couldn't help but cry out. This was a beautiful short mountain. Fresh flowers covered the entire mountain, and the air was filled with an intoxicating fragrance. The hot springs that flowed down from the peak formed several dozen connected springs at the waist of the mountain. The hot springs were like pearls, adorned by the flowers that covered the mountain. It really was a holy land. Master, the higher realm's spiritual essence really is much richer than Wasteland region. If I cultivate here, my cultivation speed will definitely be many times faster than in the lower realms. Shihao smelled the fragrance in the air, clenching his small fists, an intoxicated look on his face. While looking at the excited Shihao, Chu Bei shook his head with a smile. Then, he released his divine senses, first sweeping through his surroundings. Have you all heard about the events a few days ago? Obviously. It's such a sensational event, it's impossible not to know. For tens of thousands of years, the sect masters of those large sects would go to the lower realm once every 1,000 years, and there has never been any problems. Who would have thought that there would be such a huge change this time? Who would have thought that even immortal heavenly deity would die? It truly is too terrifying. Isn't it said that the highest cultivation in the lower dimensions is merely at the exalt realm? How did he become so terrifying all of a sudden? According to what I know about the great Tao, there is a supreme in the lower realm. He seemed to be called Boss Chu or something. He was the one who killed several sect masters. It was to the extent where in the end, immortal heavenly deity's blood sacrifice revived the 9 netherworlds Ale, but the conclusion still didn't change. The 9 nether python is one of the 10 primordial ferocious beasts. But think about it. If immortal heavenly deity didn't die, how could Immortal Mountain be in such a mess right now? How could we have a fortuitous encounter when Fiend Island appears? That's true. However, among the powers that came to the island this time, the War Race, Celestial Race, and Immortal Palace all came. It seems to be for an immortal tomb on the island. Master, they are talking about you. Shihao pointed at a group of cultivators not too far away. He looked at Chu Bei with widened eyes and said. Chu Bei gave Shihao a look, and then he nodded slightly in response. Master, what is the immortal tomb and grand mist energy they mentioned? Shihao looked at Chu Bei and muttered. From the conversations of the people around him, Shihao grasped some information. They were currently in a corner of 5 Elements Province. The greatest sect in 5 Elements Province was Immortal Mountain. However, because Immortal Mountain sect master Immortal Heavenly Deity died in the lower realm a few days ago, the entire Immortal Mountain was immersed in grief. There was an island not too far from here. Right now, countless cultivators were heading towards this island. Did you hear what they said about Fiend Island? That is our first stop. Chu Bei lightly patted Shihao's head. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, the master and disciples' figures disappeared. This was a vast mountain forest. There were a few old trees that were over 1,000 meters tall, and there were some ancient vines that were even more so like Titan giant snakes. They wrapped around the entire mountain, releasing sparkling green light. Within the dense mountain forest, the fallen leaves were several feet thick. There were all types of poisonous bugs and vicious beasts roaming about. There was a decaying aura. Master, didn't your respected self say that we were heading towards Fiend Island? Sure Hao raised his head to look at Chu Bei. His large eyes carried confusion. Chu Bei chuckled, but he didn't say anything. He instead reached out his hand and pointed forward. The great mountain was majestic, and there were many spiritual trees that released sparkling precious light. Silver waterfalls poured down, and pure white mists drifted about. It was as magnificent as an immortal realm. However, a 4 or 5-year-old chubby child destroyed this type of beautiful scenery. He was lying on the ground, his entire body covered in dirt. His 2 chubby little hands were digging at the earth with chi-chi-chi sounds. What is he doing? Sure Hao looked at the chubby child with shock. This little chubby child's digging speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths of time, he actually dug out a deep hole. The chubby child's face was extremely round like a large apple. He looked extremely simple and honest, but his large eyes were a bit bright, giving one a type of crafty feeling. Sure Hao pulled Chu Bei's hand and quickly walked over to the deep hole with curiosity. Who are you two? The chubby child was extremely vigilant, immediately noticing Sure Hao and Chu Bei. My master and I are passing by. What are you doing? Sure Hao squatted down next to the deep hole, his large eyes looking at the chubby child. Cultivating, of course. The chubby child seemed to have thought for a bit, and then he straightforwardly replied. There's someone who is digging and cultivating? Sure Hao was interested. He asked, What is your name? I am extremely famous, destined to spread throughout the world and shake up this era. My name is Chao Yuxing. The chubby child wiped off the dust on his face, and then he got up and straightened out the corners of his clothes. He was beaming with joy. After introducing himself, the chubby child seemed to have recalled some important matters. He gestured towards Sure Hao and said, You and your master can wait for me here for a bit. It'll be quick, so don't leave. After speaking, the chubby child lay down again, quickly digging in the deep hole. His figure quickly disappeared from Sure Hao's line of sight, leaving behind a bottomless hole that seemed to lead straight to the core of the earth. 15 minutes later, earth flew everywhere. The chubby child leapt out with a so's sound. Ha ha, got it! The chubby child was dancing with joy, his face full of complacency as he laughed loudly. When he looked over, he saw that there was a golden water caltrip in the chubby child's hands. It released dazzling golden light, dyeing his entire arm and chubby face golden, releasing a sweet fragrance. This is a stalk of holy medicine! While looking at the water caltrip in the chubby child's hands, Sure Hao cried out in alarm. Then, he immediately turned towards Chu Bei. Master, do you know what kind of background he has? He was actually able to find a rare precious medicine underground. The two of us were brought together by fate, so I'll share a bit with you. The chubby child was exceptionally generous. He tore off a fifth of the water caltrip and tossed it to Sure Hao. Golden liquid flowed, and the rich fragrance made all of the pores on one's body relax, as if they were about to ascend. Sure Hao received a corner of the spiritual stalk. His mouth was hemming and hawing, as if he was hesitating whether or not he should accept it. Little brother, the green mountains will not change, and the green waters will continue to flow. We will meet again someday. The chubby child's age wasn't great, but his actions were like that of a little adult. After cupping his fist towards Sure Hao, he revealed a simple and honest smile. Then, he shook his butt and ran for his life. Sigh, why are you running? I still haven't thanked you yet. Sure Hao waved towards the chubby child's back. However, as soon as his anxious voice fell, a hong sound rang out, and a wave of astonishing aura erupted from the deep hole. In the next moment, flames overflowed into the heavens from the deep hole dug by the chubby child. Earth and crushed stone flew everywhere. Master, there is a powerful creature below. Sure Hao quickly reacted. The chubby child from before wasn't cultivating at all, but rather specifically picking medicinal herbs. In addition, this stalk of holy medicine had an owner. It was just that the chubby child had silently and stealthily plucked it. Right now, the creature underground clearly discovered that the holy medicine had been lost, and it was furious. Ho! This was a jade flood dragon. It was shaped like a true dragon, and its body was enormous. It immediately soared into the sky, summoning wind and rain. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in its surroundings. The scene was astonishing. In its surroundings, there were even more green flames that overflowed into the heavens. The divine flames burned the heavens until they were green. It was terrifying to the extreme. Right now, it was precisely this terrifying creature that was glaring angrily at Shirhao. To be more precise, it was because of the small half of the spiritual stalk in his hands. Master, that chubby child actually schemed against us. When he faced the jade flood dragon's eyes that were filled with killing intent, Shirhao finally reacted. His fists were tightly clenched, and his small face carried resentment. You group of thieves truly deserve death. The jade flood dragon roared towards the heavens. Its roar carried heaven overflowing anger. In terms of aura, it already surpassed cultivators that ignited their divine flames. Pun! However, right when the jade flood dragon opened its enormous malevolent mouth and was about to swallow Shirhao whole, Chu Bei raised his hand and pointed outwards. Immediately, the jade flood dragon's body was penetrated by a streak of white light. It released a miserable howl from its mouth, and then a formless and difficult-to-capture terrifying force directly slapped it flying, disappearing into the horizon. Master, that chubby child didn't share the spiritual stalk with me out of kindness at all. He just wanted to trick us into diverting that jade flood dragon's attention. Shirhao pouted. His face was panting with anger. Since you can't take it anymore, then you should teach him a lesson. Chu Bei smiled knowingly. He then raised his right hand and opened his palm in the direction the chubby child left in. In that instant, a ripple appeared in front of his palm. A figure slowly took form within the ripple. It was precisely that chubby child. Why did I return? The chubby child landed on the ground. He looked at the familiar forest around him, and his mouth was wide open. His face was full of astonishment. However, before he could react, a white and tender fist continuously enlarged in his line of sight. Pun! Shirhao's fist that was filled with anger accurately landed on the chubby child's face. The latter directly howled in grief and rolled about on the ground in pain. Fatty, you actually schemed against me and my master. I have to teach you a lesson. Just a single fist was clearly not enough to vent Shirhao's anger. With a sound, he clenched his fist and sent it towards the chubby child again. When he saw this, the chubby child hurriedly crawled up from the ground. His hands formed an imprint and faced Shirhao. However, what left the chubby child alarmed was that when his attack was about to land on the other party's body, the other party's heavenly passage shone. Immortal multicolored light shone brilliantly, and auspicious light swirled about. In the next moment, the chubby child felt as if he had suddenly plunged into a swamp. His attack stopped, and his body couldn't move. He was immediately restricted and imprisoned. In the end, he could only watch as the other party's fist became larger and larger. Pun pun pun! Shirhao continuously sent out 10 punches at the chubby child before stopping. He clapped his hands, and the anger on his face disappeared. Monster! You are a fucking monster! The chubby child rolled about on the ground and howled in grief at Shirhao. Under Shirhao's attacks, the chubby child's face was swollen like a pig's head. There were patches of green and purple here and there. It was incredibly miserable. Chapter 443. Fatty, let's see if you dare cheat others again in the future. In front of the pit, Shirhao's hands were at his waist. He looked at the pig-headed Chao Yuxing, feeling extremely good inside. What is going on with that heavenly passage of yours? Chao Yuxing looked at Shirhao with unwillingness, but there was nothing he could do. In the 3,000 Dao provinces, Among those of his age, he was one of the most freakish individuals, already establishing 10 great heavenly passages at the age of 4. Yet now, he encountered this fella who directly smacked his arrogance into nothingness. That single heavenly passage really was too mysterious. Can't say. Sure Hao imitated Chu Bei's tone when he pretended to be profound, proudly brandishing his fist towards Chao Yuxing. What about that great flood dragon? Chao Yuxing seemed to have thought of something, asking. Of course it was chased away by Master. Sure Hao replied. When he heard this, Chao Yuxing turned his head towards Chu Bei, discovering that the other party was looking at him with a face of ridicule, his face full of rumination. Brother, you've already vented your anger. We won't meet again. Chao Yuxing brushed off the dust on his body, glaring at Sure Hao. After speaking, he was about to leave. However, when he was about to move, he shockingly discovered that his waist was actually wrapped around by a layer of ripple-like threads, only able to move within a certain range. What do you want to do to me? I also have a master. He is incomparably powerful. Even if those sect masters see him, they still have to show some respect. When he faced Chu Bei's gaze, Chao Yuxing suddenly broke out into a cold shiver. Already this type of temperament at such a young age, truly worthy of being the previous incarnation of an unscrupulous Taoist. Chu Bei released a sigh of admiration. When he looked at Chao Yuxing, he recalled the fat Taoist priest Duan De he saw in heaven's shrouding plain. Before your master comes looking for you, just follow at this one side. An indifferent voice drifted through the air. Before Chao Yuxing could refuse, he was already brought away by Chu Bei, disappearing from this mountain forest. 5 Elements Province, Border Region. Because this place didn't have sunlight year-round, the sky was overcast, a bit stifling, always surrounded by mist. Although Fiend Island had the word island in it, it wasn't in the sea, nor was it in an ordinary swamp. Instead, it was floating in the air. Once the island appeared, it would never fall until the next time it disappeared. If it was in the past, when Fiend Island appeared within the borders of 5 Elements Province, the Immortal Mountain would definitely immediately seal off Fiend Island and forbid other powers from participating. However, right now, Immortal Heavenly Deity died. Immortal Mountain didn't have the mind to pay Fiend Island any attention. Fellow Taoists, come and take a look. A stock of high-grade spirit medicine is enough to ride my spatial shuttle. It can completely conceal your aura and guarantee that you will be safely sent to Fiend Island. At the periphery of Fiend Island's dense fog, several cultivators were soliciting business, wanting to bring people into the island. It's just a few miles away. We can just fly there. Why do we need a spatial shuttle? Someone sneered, and then soared into the air and quickly left. However, before that person could fly 100 meters into the fog, he let out a miserable shriek. Immediately afterwards, in the great fog 100 Zhang out, a pair of lantern-like blood-red eyes appeared. They flickered with ice-cold radiance, carrying thick killing intent. When one looked over, this was an enormous creature that was hidden in the fog. It specialized in hunting cultivators that were preparing to enter Fiend Island. Another arrogant and pitiful person. The group of cultivators sighed. They all found spatial precious artifacts to conceal their auras, and then they flew towards Fiend Island. Look, there are people in the great fog. Heavens! He actually wiped out those terrifying creatures in the great fog with a raise of his hand. He actually brought 2 children to Fiend Island. What kind of background does he have exactly? Could it be that he is a sect master? Did he bring his disciples to Fiend Island to gain experience? At this moment, the eyes of several cultivators on spatial precious artifacts shot into the great fog, their eyes carrying shock. So powerful! In the fog, Chao Yuxing's mouth was wide open, his face full of shock as he stared at Chu Bei, as if he was looking at a monster. This is only the tip of Master's strength, making a fuss over nothing. Sure Hao looked at Chao Yuxing with a face of disdain. Soon afterwards, Chu Bei brought Sure Hao and Chao Yuxing to Fiend Island's skies. This was an enormous island that was like a continent. It was like a black expanse of dark clouds that occupied this area, making one feel an ancient aura. There was a type of mysterious power flowing within. "Master, hurry and look over there." Suddenly, Shirhao cried out in alarm, looking towards the east in disbelief. The scene before his eyes left him shocked. Is there a river that floats in the sky? What kind of river is this exactly? Without waiting for Chu Bei to speak, Chao Yusheng already couldn't help but cry out. They only saw that in the dusky sky dome, there was a long river that released radiance, accompanied by lightning, flowing into the distance. The long river was extremely wide, silvery white in color, also carrying a bit of golden light. In that instant, Chu Bei brought the two children with him, appearing above the long river. The river's surface was extremely wide, the water level extremely calm, one couldn't see the end of it. So many corpses. When he saw the things floating in the long river, Shirhao broke out into a cold shiver. Large amounts of corpses were rising and falling. Even though they had died for many years, they still didn't rot. These were clearly terrifying experts of the past. Right now, a few creatures were chatting up ahead. There were humans, as well as those from other powerful races, all of them coming for opportunities. Which one of you knows about this river's origins? From what I've heard, there are different versions of this long river's origins. Some say that it was produced by the immortal Tao lightning of the past, others saying that it is the blood of a generation's supreme being flowing, not drying up even after all these years. Where does it originate from? It's an immortal tomb. This long river completely flows from that tomb. Then how did the corpses in the river die? Who knows? Perhaps only when we reach that immortal tomb will we be able to unravel this mystery. Let's go, don't look anymore. Countless cultivators have already gone before us. Clamorous discussions sounded by his ears. Chu Bei raised his hand, cutting open a beautiful passage on the river surface, the passage leading precisely towards the source of the long river. Let's go. After saying this, Chu Bei brought Shirhao and Chao Yusheng with him, entering the brilliant passage. In that instant, the scene before their eyes changed. Is that the immortal tomb? Could it be that we already arrived? As soon as they left the brilliant passage, Chao Yusheng couldn't help but cry out in alarm. They immediately stood at the source of the river, everything before them hazy. Holy splendor flickered about, lightning radiance surging, as well as layers of mists, making that place indistinct and mysterious. One could vaguely make out an enormous grave mound that was several dozen zhang tall, seated there. Meanwhile, the surging heavenly river below them was currently flowing out, continuing to extend into the distance. Of course, this scene was extremely blurry, not clear at all. It was because there were all types of strange symbols flickering about that grave mound's surroundings, as well as holy splendor and lightning interweaving, blocking their line of sight. Right now, there were already large amounts of cultivators gathered around the grave mound, no lack of incomparably powerful giant existences among them. That immortal tomb is clearly right ahead, but why isn't anyone going up to search for opportunities? How could there be no one? Only those who entered the tomb before all died, all of them drifting away with that heavenly river. What? Could it be that the corpses we saw in the river before were the people who entered the tomb before the 9 netherworlds? It seems like a type of heavenly tribulation, lightning and fire, extremely terrifying, not even heavenly deity realm experts able to live for more than 3 seconds. The surrounding cultivators' eyes were focused on the immortal tomb at the source of the heavenly river, discussing spiritedly. Chu Bei wasn't in a rush to dig up the grave to search for the system's grandest energy, instead bringing Shirhao and Chao Yusheng to the side, sizing up the immortal tomb. Vaguely, there seemed to be a type of mysterious power swirling about this immortal tomb. Haha, this king was delayed by some matters along the way, so I thought that the immortal tomb's opportunity had already been obtained by other old fellas. Now, it seems like the immortal tomb's opportunity is still there. A dangerous place is also a place of natural luck. This king is going to enter the immortal tomb, and use the immortal blood to forge an unmatched body. Right when the cultivators were hesitating while looking at the immortal tomb, a loud laugh sounded from the distance. Then, a streak of light quickly flew over. That was a male dressed in purple robes. Truly unbridled, another one who doesn't fear death. The group of cultivators turned around. Those who didn't recognize the purple-robed male released a cold snort, dissatisfied with how brash he was. Even though this king is in seclusion all year round, it still isn't enough for you little fellows to talk about. The purple-robed male suddenly roared, powerful blood energy spreading from his body. Behind him, the void image of an enormous beast appeared, sinister and ferocious. An incomparably berserk aura directly blasted those muttering cultivators until they continuously backed up, their blood and chi roiling. That void image, he is the Taotai king! Someone recognized the enormous beast's void image behind the purple-robed male, as if recalling something. When they recovered from their shock, they couldn't help but back up, a wave of chilliness mysteriously rising. Taotai king, 8,000 years ago, after establishing a vicious reputation in the 3,000 Dao provinces, he entered seclusion all year round. It was precisely because of this that he gradually disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Taotai, this was one of the world's most powerful races. They could devour heaven and earth, and when they cultivated to the peak, they could even devour all types of natural laws. Old Taotai, congratulations on entering this cultivation realm as well. From today onwards, the 3,000 Dao provinces will have another overlord. Right when the group of cultivators looked at the purple-robed male with incomparable restraining fear, another vigorous voice sounded from the long river, the voice carrying a smile. That was a middle-aged man dressed in golden feathered clothes. Golden light curled around his body, extremely brilliant. Ancient Golden Yuan clan elder! I didn't expect him to come as well. After someone recognized the golden feathered clothed male, he cried out softly, his face carrying astonishment. Ancient Golden Yuan, this was similarly a powerful race, not weaker than the Taotai. This time, quite a few great figures really came. I wonder what exactly is inside that immortal tomb. The group of cultivators' faces carried a bit of anticipation. Master, those people all look quite strong. Sure Hao tugged at the corner of Chu Bei's clothes, pointing at those figures, saying with a suppressed voice. Looking around, most of the cultivators were gathered together, looking at the immortal tomb from afar. However, there were also a few figures, each of them occupying an area. Judging from the aura these people emitted, they were all existences at the level of giants. Above the immortal tomb's western skies, a figure dressed in golden robes, a precious crown on his head. When his eyes opened and closed, it was as if two great suns were flickering about. Terrifying aura overflowed into the heavens, chaotic mists curling about the surface of his body. He indifferently gave the Taotai king and ancient Golden Yuan clan elder a look. Then, the void halberd in his hands moved about in the void. With a peng sound, space shattered, and a passage immediately appeared. The scene was absolutely horrifying. This great halberd's power was exceptional. When held in his hands, it was as if a supreme being descended into this world. Every inch of his body surged with divine symbols. Immortal Palace, old thing, stop putting on airs in front of this king. Don't think that this king will lose again. The Taotai king released a cold snort. Immortal Palace's palace master's long hair scattered about. He didn't reply. Only a wave of faintly discernible pressure swept through this place, making everyone's hearts tremble. In the eastern skies above the immortal tomb, a figure's entire body was surrounded by hazy mists. He sat in the void, and in his surroundings, great stars appeared one after another, all of them revolving around him. This was the Celestial clan's old Celestial, as well as an old giant who cultivated in seclusion year-round. He was incomparably powerful. In the southern skies above Immortal Tomb, there was also a figure floating about. However, because the radiance around his body was too bright and resplendent, there was no way to see his true appearance. One could only tell that his entire body was covered in armor. His aura was like a tsunami, but also like a surging stellar stream, surging through heaven and earth. This was the War Clan's clan elder of the 10 great emperor clans. 10,000 years ago, he dominated an area in the higher realms, known as the War Emperor in the 3,000 Dao provinces. Compared to the Taopai King, Ancient Golden Yuan Clan Elder, Immortal Palace's Palace Master, Celestial Clan's Old Celestial, and War Clan's Clan Elder, these 5 self-release realm giants who received much attention, Chu Bei's group of 3 were too inconspicuous, not receiving much attention at all. You fellas, the longer you live, the more cowardly you become. Since none of you dare go up, then this immortal tomb's opportunity can only belong to this king. The Taopai King swept his eyes over the Old Celestial and Immortal Palace's Palace Master with a look of disdain. Then, with a loud laugh, he stepped on the void, heading towards Immortal Tomb. He was extraordinary and refined. With a single step, he was already less than 10 meters from Immortal Tomb. However, from his tightly furrowed brows, it was clear that when he reached this distance, he already began to endure great pressure. He could only slowly continue towards Immortal Tomb. Dong dong dong! Above the long river, the Taopai King's body was like jade, his entire being releasing a type of brilliant radiance. Whenever his footsteps landed, this great earth would tremble fiercely, resonating with him. Dazzling holy splendor erupted from his body. 9 meters, 8 meters, 7 meters, the Taopai King got closer and closer to Immortal Tomb. Not far away, Immortal Palace's Palace Master, Old Celestial, and the other Overlord Giants were watching, as if they were waiting for something. 111! Under several pairs of eyes, the Taopai King continued forward. However, when he was about 5 meters from Immortal Tomb, his body suddenly trembled, as if he was mysteriously struck by a wave of formless power. Then, a giant pitch-black opening appeared above his head. Within the opening, strange black symbols surged, interweaving into a thick streak of lightning. Hong long! A sky-shocking noise sounded. The black lightning directly hacked down on the Taopai King. Roar! The Taopai King roared towards the sky. His hair instantly fluttered, and his face turned pale. Amidst the mournful wails, the Taopai King transformed into his original form. A huge ferocious Taopai, roaring above the heavenly river. In the end, the Taopai King opened his giant mouth and pounced towards the black lightning in the opening. A terrifying, devouring power gushed out from his mouth. Chapter 444. Worthy of being the Taopai King! He actually took on Immortal Tomb's terrifying strike. The surrounding cultivators looked at the giant Taotai that was fighting against the black lightning, all of them revealing expressions of shock. Previously, there was a heavenly deity realm sect master who tried to force his way in, directly having his divine flame extinguished by this black lightning, his soul scattering. It was also precisely because of this precedent that even someone as powerful as the self-release realm like Immortal Palace Master, Old Celestial, and others didn't dare force their way in, only able to watch from the side. When they saw this scene, Immortal Palace Master, Old Celestial, War Clan Master, and Ancient Golden Yuan Clan Master exchanged a look, and then they all flew towards Immortal Tomb. Just like the Taopai King, when they were still 5 meters from Immortal Tomb, lightning made from interweaving black symbols also appeared above their heads. However, the power contained within this lightning, even though it could injure them, it wasn't enough to kill them. Of course, right now, apart from these 5 great overlord-level giants, the other cultivators still didn't dare approach. Hong long long! The moment the 5 great giants dealt with the black lightning above their heads, Immortal Tomb suddenly trembled. Immediately afterwards, faint Dao sounds pervaded the air, as if they came from the ancient great wastelands. A sphere of 9-colored radiance flew out from Immortal Tomb. When one looked over, there was a square transparent jade case within the radiance. Within the case was a small and exquisite red seed. Hurry and look! It came out! Something flew out from Immortal Tomb! Opportunity! This is definitely an opportunity to achieve immortality! The group of cultivators looked at the transparent jade case, their expressions stirred up, excited and in high spirits. While looking at the jade case, Chu Bei's brows furrowed slightly. He actually vaguely sensed a type of indistinct calling, this type of mysterious calling coming precisely from the small and exquisite red seed in the jade case. Grand mist energy? Chu Bei muttered to himself, his eyes a bit confused. What kind of thing was grand mist energy? The system didn't explain, but according to the red dot marked on the map, Immortal Tomb should have been excavated, so why did the other party fly out on its own? Or could it be that this red seed was something else? Who cares what kind of giant it is? Before the opportunity to achieve immortality, what is there to fear, even death? Among the endless cultivators, there was finally a self-severing realm sect master who couldn't help but take action. He roared out as if he went crazy, a powerful aura surging, irregular scenes appearing behind him. He reached out a large hand, grabbing towards that jade case. How dare you! However, before this self-severing realm sect master even touched the jade case, he suffered the simultaneous attacks of the Tao Tai King, Old Celestial, Ancient Golden Luan Clan Chief, War Clan Chief and Immortal Palace Master. Bang! With a muffled sound, the self-severing realm sect master was annihilated by the 5 terrifying attacks. Before he could even release a miserable cry, his body and soul exploded at the same time, turning into a bloody mist that scattered into the river below. The leader of the North Cloud sect died just like that. He is the strongest person in the 4-direction state. So what? He had been blinded by the opportunity in the Immortal Tomb. Don't you know who those 5 people are? They are all Dominator-level existences. In the entire 3,000 Taoist continents, how many people dare to fight against them? You're right. The temptation of the Immortal Tomb was so tempting that even the overlords couldn't resist it. They were even willing to pay with their lives for it. If we dare to fight for it now, I'm afraid we'll be annihilated by those 5 giants. I think it's good to watch the show like this. It's not a wasted trip to watch a battle of this level. The surroundings of the Immortal Tomb were bustling with noise. With the example of the leader of the North Cloud sect, the restless hearts of the other sect masters were immediately filled with fear. For a moment, no one dared to make a move. At the same time, King Tao Tai, the old celestial being, the leader of the ancient Golden Luan race, the leader of the War Tribe, and the leader of the Immortal Palace, the 5 overlords were all staring at the jade box with greed in their eyes. Roar! King Tao Tai made his move. He roared loudly, and the terrifying sound waves directly tore the void apart. Slender space cracks spread far and wide. He swung his incomparably huge body and opened his ferocious mouth. A black whirlpool formed in his mouth like a black hole, releasing an unparalleled and terrifying devouring power. The target of the devouring power was the jade box floating in the middle of the field. The leader of the ancient Golden Luan race also made his move. With a cry, dozens of golden feathers shot out from his fingertips. Although each golden feather was only a foot long, they were extremely sharp and dazzling. These golden feathers connected together to form a golden chain that swept toward the jade box. The old celestial being didn't hesitate at all. He immediately formed a seal with both hands, and a large amount of hazy air surged from all directions. It was like a surging river emitting endless light, enveloping the jade box and trying to drag it over. The leader of the Immortal Palace waved the halberd in his hand. Although it looked like a simple slash, its power was shocking. With a light shake, thousands of spirits appeared on the halberd, such as the Golden Crow and Pichio. The dazzling halberd light condensed into a beam of light that pounced toward the jade box. The leader of the War Tribe also made his move quickly. His armor released surging golden light, and he raised his hand to strike out a huge palm print that covered the sky, grabbing toward the jade box. In front of the Immortal Tomb, the 5 overlords didn't hold back. This was a terrifying battle. However, just as the 5 overlords' divine abilities landed on the jade box, a figure appeared out of thin air in front of the jade box. This is this one's item. A calm and indifferent voice drifted out from the sky above the Immortal Tomb, spreading throughout the entire Demon Island. Quickly look! Someone is making a move without regard for his life again. Who is this person? I don't think I've seen him before. Could it be some sect master that is in seclusion all year round? I actually didn't even see how he made his move, and he mysteriously appeared on the battlefield. Looking at Chu Bei, who suddenly appeared in the sky above the immortal tomb and held the mysterious jade box, the surrounding cultivators all revealed expressions of shock, their eyes filled with deep shock. Of course, there were also some cultivators who carried sympathetic expressions. After all, even the North Cloud sect master, this kind of great figure at the peak of the self-severing realm, was instantly killed by the 5 overlords because he coveted this mysterious jade box, let alone this person of unknown origins. You're courting death! In reality, this was indeed the case. The instant Chu Bei appeared beside the jade box, King Taotai couldn't help but attack first. He roared loudly, and a terrifying sound wave condensed into a silk thread that directly tore the void apart, ruthlessly smashing towards Chu Bei. The terrifying sound wave contained a terrifying and irresistible devouring power, making one's heart palpitate inexplicably. Not only King Taotai, but the ancient Golden Yuan clan leader also let out a cry, and golden wings appeared on his back. He suddenly flapped, and dozens of golden feathers pierced through the void like golden arrows, shooting towards Chu Bei from different directions. Although each golden feather was only a foot long, golden light flowed around them, and they were extremely sharp and dazzling. The old celestial frowned. What puzzled him was that with his cultivation level, he actually couldn't determine the cultivation level of this mysterious person who suddenly appeared, let alone see how he appeared on the battlefield. Moreover, this person didn't have the slightest fluctuation of divine power at all. Although his eyes were filled with confusion, his hands still changed seals at the first moment. Very quickly, the large amount of hazy qi that originally enveloped the jade box pressed towards Chu Bei. It was like a surging river, releasing a terrifying radiance. Wherever it passed, the void would collapse. The immortal palace master directly pressed forward, and with a loud roar, the halberd in his hand danced, and a cold light swept out from the halberd's blade. One could faintly see the illusions of the golden crow, Pishio, and other ancient divine beasts. It was extremely terrifying. The war clan leader was the same. He took a large step forward, and the armor on his body released a rumbling sound. He only saw his hands clasped together, and with a powerful chop, an incomparably terrifying purple radiance gushed out, collapsing the heavens, and directly heading towards Chu Bei. In a split second, the 5 overlord-level experts released their strongest attacks, and all of their attacks were aimed at Chu Bei, who had mysteriously appeared out of nowhere. Looking at the tyrannical attacks that came from 5 different directions, Chu Bei didn't dodge, and his expression didn't change in the slightest. Hong Long! In the next moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, the attacks of the 5 powerhouses merged and exploded in the field. The void trembled, and countless pitch-black cracks spread out from the explosion. The river that was filled with corpses even reversed its flow due to the aftermath of the explosion, and the surrounding cultivators could not even stand steadily. In that instant, there was only dazzling radiance left on the battlefield, a vast expanse of whiteness. How is this possible? He is actually fine. Under the joint attacks of these 5 overlords, he is still safe and sound. My heavens, this can't be real, right? The resplendent radiance scattered. When the cultivators saw the scene before them again, all of their mouths immediately opened wide, as if they were struck by lightning from a clear sky, so shocked their jaws even fell off. And the Taotai king, ancient Golden Yuan clan leader, old celestial, war clan leader, and immortal palace master, these 5 giants' brows all furrowed tightly, their faces full of shock as they looked at Chu Bei. The 5 of them gave each other a look, their eyes filled with great confusion. Even if he was also a self-release realm overlord, after suffering the joint attacks of these 5, even if he didn't die, he would still be seriously injured. Yet before their eyes, this mysterious person who suddenly appeared was actually completely unharmed, currently leisurely playing around with the mysterious jade case, even bringing out that red seed from the jade case. Hand over the immortal object! After snapping back to reality from their shock, the 5 great overlords gave each other a look again. Cold in the forest shouts sounded, releasing a second joint attack. You all can search for opportunities elsewhere. This great one also wants this grave. Chu Bei raised his head, his eyes indifferently sweeping over the 5 great overlords. As his calm voice sounded, with a wave of his hand, layers of primal chaos ripples spread through the air like waves. Chi chi chi. This time, before the 5 great overlords' attacks even reached Chu Bei's side, they were swallowed up by the primal chaos ripples, disappearing without a trace. Hong Long Long. When they saw their attacks easily neutralized, the 5 great overlords' pupils suddenly contracted. However, right when they were hesitating over whether or not they should release their most powerful attacks, a translucent fist suddenly reached out from above their heads. Primal chaos surged around the fist, strange symbols appearing on its surface. All types of radiance interweaved within, as if it could freeze the heavens. With a hong noise, it directly smashed down. Under this wave of power, the 5 great overlord experts momentarily found it hard to move. In their panic, they immediately activated their most powerful defenses. Chapter 445. Boom! Following a loud bang, the 5 overlords were directly smashed into the spatial rift by the translucent fist that descended from the sky. When the 5 of them reappeared on the battlefield, their auras were much weaker and their faces were pale. Oh my God! Tao Tai King, Ancient Golden Phoenix Clan Leader, Old Celestial Being, War Clan Leader, and Immortal Palace Leader are all injured. How is this possible? The 5 of them are the strongest in the 3,000 mystical states. Where did that person come from? He's too scary. The cultivators around the immortal tomb looked at the figure above in disbelief. They all gulped and instinctively felt a sense of fear. As for Chu Bei, he did not pay any attention to the strange gazes of the people around him. This was because just a moment ago, the red seed had actually disappeared from his palm. When it reappeared, it was already in his sea of consciousness. What was even more surprising was that the chi of all creation that he obtained from the shrouded sky realm was all around the red seed as if it was nourishing it. Who are you? The 5 overlords stood side by side as they looked at Chu Bei with extreme vigilance. Their brows were filled with intense fear. The guy in front of them was too powerful. Just that seemingly casual attack from before was not something they could block. Faintly, they guessed that the person in front of them had already entered the legendary Supreme Realm. He might have even become an immortal. He was definitely an ancient monster that had lived for millions of years. What? You're still after that seed? Unable to figure it out, Chu Bei could only give up. He looked at the 5 overlords again and frowned. An unparalleled pressure enveloped them. No, of course not. This tomb is already yours. We're just curious about where you came from. Who are you? Feeling the terrifying pressure that enveloped them, the 5 overlords' faces changed. Their hearts were filled with fear. Then, the 5 of them looked at each other and shook their heads at Chu Bei. Where I came from? You can call me Boss Chu. Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back. His voice floated in the air. Boss Chu? This name sounds familiar. Where have I heard it before? What? Boss Chu. The Boss Chu from the lower realm who killed countless sect leaders and even immortal heavenly sovereign. Why did he come up from the lower realm? Oh my God! No wonder even the old celestial, Immortal Palace's palace master, these 5 overlords aren't his opponent. He is a peak supreme being, an unmatched existence who killed the archaic vicious 10. The cultivators around the immortal tomb were stunned at first, but when they came to their senses, their expressions immediately changed. They were all dumbfounded and their bodies seemed to be numb. They stared at Chu Bei in disbelief without blinking. When the Tao Tai King, Ancient Golden Yuan Clan Leader, Old Celestial Being, War Clan Leader, and Immortal Palace Leader heard the name Boss Chu, their faces changed instantly. Their eyes were filled with shock as they looked at Chu Bei with fear. They had thought about his identity before. Perhaps he was an ancient giant who had been sleeping for millions of years, or an extremely powerful ancestor from the 3,000 provinces. But no matter what, they never thought that the mysterious person in front of them was the mysterious boss Chu who killed countless sect leaders in the lower realm a few days ago. In the end, he even killed the archaic Vicious 10. After knowing the other party's name, the last bit of hope the 5 overlords had disappeared. They knew that this immortal tomb was not fated with them. After all, the supreme being in front of them was not someone to be trifled with. He had killed countless sect leaders. If they were stubborn, the other party would not be merciful. Thinking of this, the 5 old giants took a step back to make their attitude clear. Chu Bei glanced at the 5 overlords and ignored them. Instead, he walked toward the immortal tomb. When he was 5 meters away from the immortal tomb, Chu Bei paused. A huge black hole also appeared above his head. Strange black runes appeared in the hole and intertwined to form a thick bolt of lightning. However, the black lightning just let out a loud rumble. Before it could strike down, it was crushed into nothingness by Chu Bei's chaotic ripples. Chu Bei continued forward. When he was 4 meters away from the immortal tomb trembled. Dense and strange runes intertwined to form a huge spider web and fell down. Chu Bei waved his finger, and several sickle-shaped rays of light were shot out. With a swoosh, the spider web was cut into countless rays of light and dissipated into the void. When he was 3 meters away from the immortal tomb, Chu Bei's footsteps paused once again. He saw an indistinct shadow appear above the immortal tomb, and it was performing a precious technique there. At the same time, the lump of iron appeared behind Chu Bei and waved its fist. The two faced each other and were in a stalemate for a while. Then, the blurry figure turned into nothingness. Under the gaze of all the cultivators, including the 5 overlords, Chu Bei was getting closer and closer to the immortal tomb. When he was 2 meters away, a powerful mummy appeared in the immortal tomb. Even Chu Bei had to spend a lot of effort to get rid of it. Even if this boss Chu didn't appear, we still wouldn't be able to get close to this tomb. The 5 overlords looked at each other and sighed. Just the 3-meter illusory figure was enough to kill them, not to mention the mummy with the strength of a supreme being when it was 2 meters tall. Finally, under the nervous gaze of all the cultivators present, Chu Bei took another step forward. At this moment, he was only 1 step away from the immortal tomb. Buzz! When Chu Bei's hand was about to land on the immortal tomb suddenly emitted a mysterious and dazzling radiance. The radiance evolved above the immortal tomb and actually formed a piece of land. This piece of land was lush and verdant. It was covered with green and lustrous plants that emitted radiance. There were also vines and flowers that were colorful and shrouded in multicolored light. Looking carefully, there was actually a figure in the middle of these plants. She was wearing a snow-white robe and stood alone. She stood there quietly and was so transcendent. It was a woman. She looked at Chu Bei and smiled faintly. Her white teeth were sparkling. She had a graceful appearance and a flowing beauty. She was so beautiful that it made people a little dazed. Did you guys see that? A woman, that's a woman! Isn't that a tomb? How can there be a living person? Is she an immortal? So beautiful! Looking at the woman on the immortal tomb, the cultivators exclaimed. This woman was too special. Her black hair was soft and smooth, her snow-white skin was elegant and beautiful, and her eyes were clear. She could be said to be a peerless beauty. Even someone as strong as the old Celestial and the other 5 overlords were momentarily dazed. She stood alone on the land overflowing with flowers and flowers. Her snow-white robe fluttered, and her charm was transcendent. She was truly peerless and independent. Since the woman appeared, Chu Bei had been sizing her up with rapt attention. His divine sense immediately enveloped her. The strange thing was that there seemed to be a mysterious power on her body that was actually preventing him from probing. Are you the one who woke this immortal up? The snow-white robed woman's beautiful eyes turned, and her gaze landed on Chu Bei. Her eyes were specks of light, and her voice was clear and pleasant to listen to. Chu Bei's expression changed slightly. "You can say that. Come up and let this immortal take a look." The snow-white-robed woman's graceful figure moved slightly, and she waved at Chu Bei. Then, with a flash of light, a white jade bridge appeared, extending from the land above the immortal tomb to Chu Bei's feet. Chu Bei hesitated for a moment, and then stepped on the white jade bridge and arrived at the land where the snow-white-robed woman was. Being on this land, Chu Bei was slightly shocked. This was actually a blood-red land, and white bones were everywhere. It was like hell. "You just woke up from a deep sleep." Chu Bei's gaze swept across the ground, and he saw a broken cocoon glowing. There were some remains of sloughs around it. 100,000 years have passed, and the world has changed. Congratulations on your rebirth, fellow Taoist. The snow-white-robed woman smiled, giving off an incomparably stunning feeling. Her white robe could topple cities. "You know this lord?" Hearing the snow-white-robed woman's words, Chu Bei's heart shook, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. This land was overflowing with light, flowers, corpses, and broken divine chains of order. There was such a woman in such a strange place, how could one not be on guard? Thinking back to 1,000,000 years ago, when you became this immortal's disciple, how high-spirited were you? You were bound to ascend to the immortal emperor realm, and you were filled with hot blood for revenge. Why are you so foolish now? You are so dull, and there is no spirit in your eyes. How pitiful! The snow-white-robed woman's voice was like the sound of nature, and she looked at Chu Bei, shaking her head and sighing. "A 1,000,000 years ago, this lord became your disciple?" Chu Bei's expression froze. After hearing the snow-white-robed woman's words, he was stunned, truly stunned. A dream in the immortal ancient era, and the end of an era. "Why aren't you coming to greet your master?" The snow-white-robed woman's expression suddenly became serious, and she said, "Quickly, let your master help you activate your innate wisdom and recall the past." Chu Bei looked at the woman in a daze. For some reason, he actually felt a little dizzy. Could it be that what the snow-white-robed woman said was true? Chapter 446. All things are in the beginning. Reincarnation requires one to understand the source. My pitiful disciple. When the snow-clothed woman saw that Chu Bei didn't walk up, she couldn't help but speak out again. Her beautiful eyes were deep, as if she was bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. "Did you all hear the conversation between Boss Chu and that woman? Boss Chu is someone from the archaic era after all. Moreover, he is actually that woman's beloved disciple. Then that means that woman's strength is even more terrifying than Boss Chu's. She is an immortal? No wonder Boss Chu would appear here. Turns out he came to find Master." When the cultivators around Immortal Tomb heard the woman's words, they all revealed looks of shock, their faces filled with shock. As for the Taopai King, ancient Golden Luan clan chief, Old Celestial, War Race clan chief, and Immortal Palace Master, these 5 great overlords carried looks of suspicion, half believing and half doubting the snow-clothed woman's words. "Brother Shihao, this master of yours is already powerful beyond compare. I fear that you won't be able to find anyone stronger than him in all of the 3,000 Dao provinces. Who would have thought that his master was still alive? I reckon she is even more terrifying, definitely a true immortal." Chao Yuxing reached out a finger, pointing at the snow-clothed woman, his mouth wide open. "What nonsense are you spouting? Master still hasn't acknowledged her yet," Shihao retorted. "You know the past, can comprehend your past life?" On the earth above Immortal Tomb, Chu Bei's eyes landed on the snow-clothed woman's body, his brows frowning slightly. Could it be that he encountered a great achievement, Immortal King level forbidden existence? Turning around is the past life, looking up is the next life, keeping a thought is the present world. The snow-clothed woman's appearance was dignified, unmatched in style, incomparably holy. "I wonder what your name is?" This time, Chu Bei didn't try to probe further, directly going straight to the point. In the perfect plane, those illustrious existences were still fresh in his memories. As long as the other party reported her name, he would have the initiative. This immortal was called an unmatched female immortal in the archaic era. As for my down name, Yi Qin Xian. The snow-clothed woman looked at Chu Bei, replying extremely seriously. What? You said you are called Yi Qin Xian? After hearing the snow-robed woman's name, Chu Bei was first stunned, then the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. What? Do you know my name? Sensing Chu Bei's expression, the snow-robed woman's unfathomable expression changed, but it quickly returned to normal. Disciple, why aren't you kowtowing to your master? Not only do I know your name, I also know that your father is called Ji Fan. After confirming the identity of the snow-robed woman, Chu Bei sized her up again, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up into a playful smile. Now, he finally understood why there was a mysterious power in the other party's body that could prevent his divine sense from probing. It wasn't because this snow-robed woman was too powerful, but because she didn't belong to this era at all. She had crossed the river of time and come from the future. The mysterious power that stopped Chu Bei was the power of time. How do you know this name? The snow-robed woman's mouth was wide open, and her expression completely changed. When you are quiet, you are unique and isolated. When you move, you are sly and agile. When you are boasting, you are so domineering. Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the snow-robed woman mockingly. He used his divine sense to send a message that only the snow-robed woman could hear. You are so powerful. Does little Yi Fan know? Little Yi Fan? The snow-robed woman's frown deepened, and her eyes became even more confused. Could it be that Yi Fan, that brat, never mentioned anything about me to your precious daughter? I gave him my inheritance, and I am his master. He never told you. Chu Bei's gaze suddenly froze, and he stared at the snow-robed woman. His voice became indifferent. You are, no, impossible. Hearing this, the snow-robed woman's face was full of fear. She stared at Chu Bei with extreme fear and muttered to herself. It was as if she was frightened by something. Who would have thought that little Ye's daughter would actually try to trick this king? It seems that this king has really taught a good disciple. Chu Bei continued to transmit his voice using his divine sense, and the smile on the corners of his mouth became even wider. You are really the great Grand Master that my father mentioned? The snow-robed woman looked suspiciously at Chu Bei. She had indeed heard her father often mention a master. According to her father, her great Grand Master's cultivation was unfathomable. Even though her father was already known as Emperor Yi, he still could not estimate the great Grand Master's strength. Moreover, her father's thunder pill was given to him by the great Grand Master. Her great Grand Master had different names in different eras. Master of Heavenly Punishment, Nine Heavens Godly Emperor, Ghostly Immortal Emperor, Red Dust Immortal Emperor, and Boss Chu. There were even more down names that she did not know. She could not imagine that the master that her father had been searching for tens of thousands of years, even after becoming a celestial emperor, would actually appear here. Do you think I am like you, a big liar? Chu Bei reached out and rubbed the snow-robed woman's forehead. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, a moving image flashed past her eyes. The relevant content of the image was from the 9 dragons pulling the coffin, to taking Yi Fan as a disciple, and then the final battle in the life-forbidden zone. Great Grand Master, it's really you! Seeing the flashing images, the snow-robed woman was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. She no longer looked like an ethereal immortal. Great Grand Master, please forgive Qin Xian's behavior just now. Qin Xian was too stubborn. Please forgive me. After recovering from her shock, Yi Qin Xian seemed to have thought of something. Her expression changed again, and then she hurriedly knelt before Chu Bei, pitifully admitting her mistakes. What is going on now? Isn't she an immortal? And Boss Chu's master? Why is she kneeling before Boss Chu now? what is going on here? You're making me confused. Could it be that what that woman said before was all fake? Chu Bei and Yi Qingxian spoke through divine senses. Even though the cultivators couldn't hear what they said, it didn't stop them from seeing with their own eyes. Right now, when they saw Yi Qingxian kneel before Chu Bei with that delicate and pitiful appearance, the cultivators felt their heads swell, momentarily unable to react. Even the Taopai King, ancient Golden Luan clan chief, Old Celestial, War clan chief, and Immortal Palace Lord, these 5 great overlords were stupefied, completely stupefied. Brother Shihao, what is going on? Tell me about it. Chao Yuxing's ears drooped, his eyes widening as he looked at Shihao in confusion. Shihao shook his head, his face also full of shock. I have to ask Master about this later. Get up. You are just a bit stubborn, this great one naturally won't bicker with you. On the earth above Immortal Tomb, Chu Bei waved his hand, producing an expanse of ripples, lifting up the kneeling Yi Qingxian. Oh, right, great ancestor, I came here from the future to find someone to help me. Yi Qingxian thought of her goal of crossing the great river of time, suddenly crying out in alarm. You came too early. The person you are looking for hasn't grown up yet. This great one is still nurturing him. When his calm voice sounded, Chu Bei waved his hand. Shihao and Chao Yuxing tore through the void, appearing at his side. It's him! It's him! Yi Qingxian's eyes suddenly locked onto Shihao's body, her beautiful eyes carrying blazing heat. Master, who is she? Shihao pulled Chu Bei's large hand, looking at Yi Qingxian with a bit of nervousness. She is one of this master's past disciples, as well as your senior brother's daughter. In terms of seniority, she still has to call you little martial uncle. Chu Bei smiled and pinched Shihao's cheeks. Then why did she say she was your master before? Isn't that just deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors? Shihao pouted, and then made a funny face towards Yi Qingxian. When she heard Shihao's words, Yi Qingxian immediately broke out into a cold shiver. Then, she looked at this little boy who didn't even reach her waist, the corners of her lips twitching slightly. The other party was actually her martial uncle, moreover the one he was looking for. Only it was clear that the person he was looking for was just like the great ancestor said, hadn't grown up yet, just a fledgling waiting to spread his wings. Great ancestor, our era needed his help, but his current state isn't enough at all. Yi Qingxian looked at Chu Bei, moreover reaching out a hand to point at Shihao, her face full of worry. Great ancestor, your cultivation is heaven-reaching. Since he hasn't grown up yet, why don't you make a trip with me? Yi Qingxian seemed to have thought of something, her eyes shining as she stared at Chu Bei. There are some things that are destined by fate. This is also a type of tempering for you all. If there really is a time when you need this one will naturally take action. When he saw Yi Qingxian tug at his arm, Chu Bei immediately coughed dryly. With his current strength, even if he had the support of level 18 Xiaohei's power, he still only had true immortal strength. He was still far from having the qualifications to interfere with that darkness chaos. Great ancestor, then your respected self's intention is? Yi Qingxian looked at Chu Bei with a face full of confusion, her beautiful eyes carrying confusion. Just follow at this one's side. After this one leaves, watch over him until he grows up. Chu Bei pointed at Shihao, calmly saying this. I will listen to everything great ancestor says. Yi Qingxian gave Shihao a look, and then nodded. Do you know the origins of this grave mound? Chu Bei recalled the mission he hadn't completed yet, opening his mouth to ask. Yi Qingxian shook her head. There is a coffin inside, wrapped within a layer of mysterious mist. I tried 100 times, yet I still couldn't open it. As for who is lying in this coffin, I have even less of a clue. After hearing what Yi Qingxian said, Chu Bei frowned, and then his hands slapped the immortal tomb. Pung! An enormous noise sounded. The grave mound exploded, immortal earth flying everywhere. The process of opening the grave was far simpler than Chu Bei imagined. Heavens! This boss Chu is just too violent. He directly blasted the coffin out. Hurry and look, what is that red hazy energy outside the coffin? That coffin should be the corpse of an immortal, right? If we can obtain an immortal corpse, and then refine it, we can simply do whatever we want in the 3,000 Dao provinces. You are blaspheming an immortal. Even 10,000 times wouldn't be enough to kill you. The cultivators around the immortal tomb looked at the exploded immortal tomb in astonishment. Inside the immortal tomb, there was a black coffin that was tens of thousands of years old floating up and down, surrounded by red hazy energy. It gave off a strange feeling, causing one's heart to palpitate. Host has opened the immortal tomb and found the primordial aura. The system is helping the host to refine it. Host's mission is complete. Reward: 1 use of a grade 19 commodity. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded. With a buzzing sound, a golden disc appeared in Chu Bei's body. In the next moment, the red hazy energy above the coffin seemed to be moved by the golden disc, leaving the black coffin and surging toward Chu Bei. Primordial aura refining. Primordial aura refining complete. Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Chu Bei's divine sense sank into his sea of consciousness. Looking at the scene in front of him, he was startled. He saw that the primordial aura and the myriad chi had actually intertwined to form a clear Tai Chi diagram, and at the center of this Tai Chi diagram, where the eye of the formation was located, was the red seed he had obtained from the jade box before. Chi La. Without waiting for Chu Bei to come back to his senses, there was another thing above the Tai Chi diagram. It was the black coffin. Chu Bei was startled. He immediately regained his senses and looked forward. As expected, the black coffin had disappeared. Great ancestor, I saw that coffin fly into your body. Not only Yi Chi Xian, but all the cultivators, including the 5 overlords, looked at Chu Bei in shock. Chu Bei pretended to be calm, tidied his clothes, and said indifferently, "The one inside the coffin is this lord's old friend. This lord's purpose is to take him away." Buzz, buzz, buzz. With a rumbling sound, the immortal tomb that had exploded not far away shook again. What's going on? Is there something else in the tomb? It's coming out, it's coming out. Hearing the commotion, the cultivators' gazes focused on the immortal tomb again. Then, fear appeared in their eyes. It was a drop of blood, bright red like a fire diamond, bright red and translucent. As soon as it emerged, divine multicolored light rushed into the heavens, releasing a wave of terrifying and immeasurable pressure. Tao Tai King, Immortal Palace's palace master, Old Celestial and the other overlords exchanged a look, backing up at the same time, inwardly incomparably shocked. Just what kind of power was this? It was just a drop of blood, yet it actually made their fine hairs stand on end, as if they were facing an ancient vicious beast. This drop of blood was shockingly resplendent. What left them in disbelief the most was that this drop of blood didn't carry any killing intent, but even though it was just a drop of harmless blood, it still carried a type of terrifying pressure that was hard for them to contend against. Compared to the 5 great overlords at the self-release realm, all cultivators below the self-severing realm directly knelt down under this wave of pressure, couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. It was inconceivable, just too shocking. Whose blood was this? Let me take a look. The old celestial spoke, only to see his eyes swirl with golden light. He possessed the rare heavenly eye, able to see through all falsehoods in this world. However, he stared straight at this drop of blood. No matter how dazzling the golden light in his eyes was, he just couldn't see through it, unable to see through it. That drop of blood's surface was wrapped in wisps of chaotic energy, natural laws and order interweaving within the blood, impossible to see through. Even the heavenly eye is ineffective, this is a rare thing. The more he observed, the more stunned the old celestial's expression became. Hong Long! Another great noise sounded. This drop of blood bobbed up and down, releasing an incomparable surging aura. It was like a sea, shaking up the void until it resonated, shaking intensely, about to collapse. Hurry and look, there seems to be a figure behind that blood. Too blurry, can't see clearly at all. Who exactly is he? The cultivators cried out in alarm, widening their eyes, staring at that drop of blood. Chapter 447. This drop of blood became more and more astonishing, the fluctuations it released tearing apart the heavens. Waves of shouts erupted from within, shaking up heaven and earth. Vaguely, the cultivators seemed to have heard the war cries of a great army. Then, a void figure appeared behind that drop of blood. It looked like a man, but it wasn't that real. Right now, he looked forward, as if he could see through the endless heavens, cross the great river of time, stand tall in the world, overlooking all living things. He was like a heavenly emperor. The 5 great overlords were shocked, because at this moment, even they instinctively bowed down. This person's aura was too terrifying, even though it was just a drop of blood. A drop of blood floated above a mortal tomb, as if reflecting the past, present, and future. It was as if it formed a world of its own, shouts of war shaking the heavens from within, as if there was a great army fighting, all of them unimaginably powerful figures. In immortal tomb's surroundings, countless cultivators stared at that drop of blood without blinking. To be more precise, they stared at the man behind that drop of blood. That man was indistinct, standing proudly between heaven and earth. A cauldron floated above his head, releasing source energy that flickered with 9 types of immortal gold brilliance. He moved, lowering his head, his eyes landing on Shirhao's body, as if he was looking across endless time. Those eyes were incomparably deep, as if they were transmitting indescribable mysteries and information. However, Shirhao couldn't sense it at all, unable to see through what kind of information the other party was transmitting. Master, is he talking to me? Shirhao's small fair hand pointed at the void male, raising his head to look towards Chu Bei, eyes carrying confusion. For some reason, he had a type of feeling that the other party had something he wanted him to know, but he couldn't understand it. Separated by the great river of time, not belonging to this place, unable to speak. Right at this time, a cultivator seemed to have heard a thunderous noise, accompanied by unmatched immortal Tao heavenly tribulation. An indistinct voice sounded from the void male's mouth. Did that person speak? Separated by the great river of time, what is the meaning of this? Countless cultivators were shocked, staring at that void male. Their ears perked up, wishing to understand what was going on. Gradually, that person bathed in lightning radiance, his expression becoming complicated, as if he was resisting something. No more sounds were released. 1-1. Amidst the strange rumbling sounds, the illusory man suddenly waved his hands in the air. He was forming an image. Within the scene was a battlefield that was too horrible to look at. The gods and devils of the heavens had fallen, and blood dyed the world red. The scene was too terrifying. Above the battlefield, there were several figures standing proudly and fighting. One of them held a great bell in his hand. The sound of the bell was long and drawn out, shaking the long river of time. He was unleashing his arts to fight. Fragments of time and space scattered down like raindrops, seemingly able to affect the past and present. The other person was an empress with exceptional style. In her hands was an immortal artifact that turned into a sword, ring, and mask, releasing unmatched brilliance. She was also fighting, great Tao light flickering about. There was also a fat Taoist priest. In terms of appearance, he was actually somewhat similar to little Chao Yuxing. The 4th person was a man with a huge cauldron in his hand. He was a celestial emperor. He looked down at his enemies and attacked them with his cauldron. As he took a step forward, the terrifying power of lightning surrounded him. What is he trying to tell us? Where is the battlefield he created? Could it be in the desolate border? What level of battle is this? While looking at the scene the void male produced, the cultivators in front of Immortal Tomb were so shocked that they lost their composure. Father, Great One! If one was to talk about the one whose emotions changed the most, it was none other than Yi Qingxian. When this drop of blood appeared, her beautiful eyes became red. This was especially the case when that void male appeared. Her voice was choked with emotion, her voice trembling. Bean-sized tears fell uncontrollably. Above Immortal Tomb, that void figure sensed Yi Qingxian's emotions. The gaze he looked at Yi Qingxian with carried pity and apology. The void male's eyes shifted away from Yi Qingxian. When his eyes landed on Chu Bei's body, his figure clearly trembled. Master, Tur. The void male forcefully endured the unmatched immortal Dao heavenly tribulation, releasing two different and distinct calls. Then, he bowed deeply towards Chu Bei. Hong Long! The void male seemed to still want to say something, but the immortal Dao tribulation light was too terrifying. Moreover, this was only the appearance of a drop of blood, so it was hard for him to say anything else. Little Yi, what do you want to say? Your master knows. This is your tribulation. When it truly reaches the point of no return, your master will take action. Chu Bei feigned calmness, speaking with an incomparably calm voice. When he saw Yi Fan in the perfect world, Chu Bei was still incomparably shocked. From the lightning that appeared behind the other party clearly already developed the system bestowed lightning pill to the extreme, to the extent where there was even his own Dao mixed in. It was clear that the current Yi Fan came from countless years in the future. He was already powerful to an indescribable level. Did you all hear that? That snow-clothed woman is actually his daughter. Moreover, he actually called Boss Chu his master. My heavens, these tangled and complicated relationships. My head is in a bit of a mess. It wasn't just the cultivators, even the 5 old giants' expressions were a bit stupefied. Master, turns out he was that senior brother of mine. Sherhouse stared blankly for a moment. When he snapped back to reality, his mouth was wide open, eyes widened, looking at the void male with shock. The void male's eyes returned to Sherhouse's body. He shook his head, and after a sigh, his figure disappeared without a trace. In the next moment, that drop of blood slowly entered Sherhouse's body. Master, this. Sherhao immediately cried out in alarm. Don't worry, he won't harm you. Chu Bei pinched Sherhao's cheeks with a smile, moreover pointing in the direction Yi Fan disappeared in. Don't cry, you all will be fine. Soon you will be able to reunite with little Yi. That day won't be too far away. Chu Bei spoke, comforting the red-eyed Yi Qingxian on the side. Hong Long Vlong. Right when all of the cultivators here were focused on Chu Bei's group, a resonant bugle horn sounded from the end of the long river. This sound! It's the Desolate Border's recruitment. How could it be like this? Isn't it supposed to only be recruited once every 1,000 years? If my calculations aren't wrong, then it hasn't even been 100 years since the last recruitment. Could it be that something happened in the Desolate Border? Impossible, right? The Desolate Border has countless ancestors overseeing it. When they heard the bugle horn, the expressions of the cultivators became serious, to the extent where they no longer paid attention to Chu Bei and Yi Qingxian. They all turned around to look in the direction the bugle horn sounded from. Xiao! A divine rainbow tore through the air above the long river. In the blink of an eye, a stooped elder appeared at the end of the long river. Even though he had a head of white hair, his aura was like a rainbow, unknowingly releasing an aura that wasn't weaker than the 5 great overlords. Devil Leader King, you actually didn't die! When he saw the stooped elder, the old celestial was the first to cry out in alarm. You're the one who died! This king was merely secretly recruited to the Desolate Border. When he heard the old celestial's words, the stooped elder released a cold snort. Why did you blow the bugle horn? Immortal Palace's palace master asked with a frown. Nonsense, of course it's to represent the Great One on that side. The Devil Leader King's eyes swept over the Taotai King, War Race's clan chief, and countless cultivators. The Desolate Border situation is urgent, a great battle on the verge of erupting. Taotai King, Zhan Yuan, Gu Jin Luan, all cultivators above the self-severing realm are to follow me to the Desolate Border. Those who refuse to be recruited will be killed without exception. When his cold voice sounded, the Devil Leader King didn't say anything else, turning around to leave, as if he wasn't worried that these fellas wouldn't come. The 5 great old giants and the self-severing realm sect masters looked at each other. After a moment of hesitation, they followed the Devil Leader King. It wasn't that they wanted to go, but rather that if they didn't go, the clans they represented would immediately be wiped out. In other words, this was a type of disguised threat. In the 3,000 Dao provinces, even though they were unmatched overlords, this was on the premise that those ancestors who guarded the desolate border for 10,000 years didn't return. It was rumored that among those ancestors, there was no lack of existences who had already reached the supreme being level. Master, the desolate border recruitment they spoke of, what kind of place is that? While looking in the direction the 5 great overlords left, Shi Hao raised his head towards Chu Bei in confusion, his eyes carrying curiosity. A battlefield. You'll know when you get there. After saying this, Chu Bei raised his hand, releasing an expanse of ripples, bringing Shi Hao, Chao Yuxing, and Yi Qingxian away. 15 minutes later. Master, this place is so gloomy. Shi Hao tightly gripped Chu Bei's large hand. When he looked at the surrounding environment, he shrunk his neck. Chao Yuxing also mysteriously became timid. Chu Bei didn't head to the desolate border alone, but rather like all of the other cultivators who were recruited, the Devil Leader King brought them to the desolate border. Of course, Chu Bei didn't stay with the large group, instead following while hiding in the void. Right now, the ancient land they were in, even though ancient trees towered into the heavens, vegetation lush and verdant, there wasn't the slightest bit of aura. There were no birds to be seen, no beast roars to be heard, to the extent where not even an ant could be seen. It was as if this wasn't a forest, but rather a desolate great desert, too quiet and strange. At this time, a miserable scream suddenly sounded from up ahead. Devil Leader King, what is going on? After the miserable scream, what sounded next was the Tao Tai King's furious roar. Just now, a self-severing realm sect master, without any abnormalities, released a miserable scream, and then turned into a shriveled corpse. In almost the blink of an eye, a sect master with a powerful aura had his blood sucked dry by a mysterious object, to the extent where even his bones melted, his inner organs devoured. Truly making a fuss over nothing, this is the first time you came to the desolate border after all. The Devil Leader King swept his eyes over the Tao Tai King and other veteran self-release realm experts with a look of disdain. During the last desolate border great battle, there were quite a few foreign creatures who entered the 9 heavens 10 earths. They were hiding precisely in this mountain forest. When he spoke up to hear, the Devil Leader King reached out a hand, pointing towards the northwest. The sect masters looked in the direction the Devil Leader King was pointing in. Their pupils immediately contracted, expressions of horror appearing on their faces. The scene before their eyes left them alarmed. More than 10 corpses hung from an ancient tree. These corpses, even after being dried, still released sparkling light. They were clearly incomparably powerful existences when they were alive. Just what kind of existences are the creatures on the other side of the desolate border? The Tao Tai King frowned as he looked towards the Devil Leader King. As soon as his confused voice sounded, with a chi sound, a withered blade of grass moved, rushing towards him. The Tao Tai King immediately felt a hint of chilliness. His figure moved without the slightest bit of hesitation, barely avoiding this attack. Hong Long! A sky-shocking noise sounded. That withered blade of grass directly smashed a black great mountain that towered into the clouds into powder, sinister symbols flickering about at the location of the explosion. Who? It wasn't just the Tao Tai King. The old celestial, immortal palace master, and the other overlords all shouted at the same time. Just that seemingly unremarkable withered blade of grass was already enough to injure them. This was unimaginable. Just a single blade of grass already had such terrifying power, then just how powerful was the one behind the scenes? Immediately afterwards, the cultivators released their divine senses, gazing all around, their faces carrying seriousness and vigilance. After crossing the desolate border for so many years, this is the first time we've seen so much food. We really are lucky. A divine will mysteriously sounded in everyone's minds. Open! The old celestial shouted, his eyes flashing with radiance. The heavenly eyes could see through the void, directly looking at the source. Soon afterwards he saw a lump of something black in the void. However, right at this moment, his eyes felt a wave of pain. A streak of scarlet multicolored light appeared there, simply like a nail, stabbing into his eyes. Scarlet light flickered, and then that mysterious creature disappeared. Chapter 448. It's coming! With a kung-chang sound, Immortal Palace's palace master brandished the halberd in his hands, hacking backwards. This was a type of instinct, because the fine hairs on his back stood on end. He sensed danger approaching. Sparks flew in all directions. An expanse of bone text was erased. That creature released a sphere of light that blocked the sword core. In addition, a wave of scorching heat surged towards Immortal Palace's palace master's body. Demon Leader King, what kind of thing is this exactly? Immortal Palace's palace master questioned the Demon Leader King. His full-strength halberd could break the heavens and shatter heavenly secret treasures, yet just now, it was obstructed, to the extent where it was almost invaded by the other party's terrifying power. The Demon Leader King didn't say anything. Only endless symbols appeared beneath his feet, shrinking the earth to inches. He quickly moved outwards, and then a palm directly slapped outwards. Chi-chi. Within the sound of burning, an enormous mountain melted into magma, exploding there. In the void, a lump of black matter disappeared. Right at this time, Gu Jin Wan Clan's brows stood vertically. He released a long roar, and then golden patterns appeared all over his body. 100,000 golden feathers flew out, all of them formed from symbols. They submerged that area of the void. That region directly exploded. The 100,000 divine feathers were like 100,000 heavenly swords as they hacked apart the void. Under the joint attacks of several great overlords, that strange creature finally rushed into the sky, revealing its original body. It was perfectly round like a ball, a meter in diameter. It was black, scorched black, and there were traces of blood. This was actually an eyeball. When it was closed, it was hidden in the void, difficult to discover. Meanwhile, when it opened its eyes slightly, scarlet light was released from its eyes like flames, but also like lightning. It could destroy all tangible matter in front of it. At this moment, it suddenly opened its eyes. Immediately afterwards, this mountain forest was filled with scarlet multicolored light, filled with blood-colored light. It carried a wave of deep killing intent, as if it fell into a bloody hell. Eyeball! Could it be that the foreign creatures are all ruined limbs like this? Were those corpses all caused by it? When they saw the creature's appearance, the group of powerful cultivators immediately revealed looks of horror. They felt a wave of heart-shaking aura from this eyeball. Demonic eye! You actually didn't die! The one who was the most shocked here was none other than the Demon Leader King. Humph, that one family's giant bug wants to kill this emperor. Simply a fool's dream. The eyeball bobbed up and down, releasing a divine will. Demon Chief King, just what is its origin? The old celestial frowned. Supreme Being, the eye of a foreign supreme being. He is also the foreign king of this mountain forest. The Demon Leader King took a deep breath, his face becoming overcast, a heavy expression appearing between his brows. What? Eye of the Supreme Being! Hearing the Demonic Leader King's words, the cultivators present clearly trembled. But as long as there was even the slightest bit of relationship with Ji-Zun, he was not someone they could match, even if the other party was just an eye of Ji-Zun. In an instant, fear rose in the eyes of the cultivators. So much delicious food, it's so nutritious! Ji-Zun opened and closed his eyes. His cold gaze swept across the crowd of cultivators, and the sound of greedy gulping could be clearly heard. It's just the severed limb of a supreme being. What's there to be afraid of? War Clan's clan chief released a loud shout. With a raise of his hand, a streak of lightning shot out from his palm. Blue rainbow radiance overflowed, rushing out like a long river. Trifling self-release brat, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. The eyeball shone, releasing a mocking divine will. Immediately afterwards, blood-colored mist rose from the eye, forcibly blocking the lightning. This wasn't all. The instant the eye shot out, blood mysteriously seeped out. It was incomparably terrifying. War Clan's clan chief's body trembled slightly. That blood corroded all things, trapping him within. Some of the blood splashed out, landing on his battle armor, immediately producing chi-chi noises. Blood pool, appear, destroy. Another divine will from the Supreme Being's eye descended. They only saw the void distort, a blood pool appearing. It was completely filthy blood, possessing strange power, wishing to devour War Clan's clan chief. While looking at this blood pool, not only did the Tao Tai King and the other overlord-level experts, the group of self-severing realm sect masters also finally understood why those people only had skin left behind. It was precisely because they were devoured by this blood pool. Thunder roar! The War Clan's clan chief shouted. His hands formed imprints, all types of precious light appearing in the void. Then, lightning overflowed between heaven and earth, pouring down like a torrential rain. Then, a lightning pool appeared in front of him, within it all types of lightning radiance. There were great electrical arcs, 5 elements divine lightning, and chaotic electrical radiance. This was the lightning Tao great method passed down by the War Clan's ancestor, directly producing a lightning pool. Kacha! Lightning radiance flickered about, lightning striking down. The lightning radiance that casually splashed out from within formed terrifying power, resisting that blood pool. In the end, the two pools collided. The battlefield erupted with exceptional radiance. Pun! A low rumbling noise sounded. The radiance scattered. The battlefield scene became clear. Right now, the War Clan's clan chief was in a sorry state, his golden battle armor blasted to pieces, his entire body covered in injuries. His entire body flew out, smashing into several mountain peaks, the distant forest even more so destroyed beyond recognition. Zhang Yuan was actually defeated. He is one of the 3,000 Dao province's 10 great experts, yet not even he is this eye's opponent. While looking at the pale-faced War Clan's clan chief who returned to Devil Leader King's side, the sect masters revealed horrified expressions, their eyes full of disbelief. If it wasn't for this emperor only having a single eye, even if there were tens of thousands of ants like you all, I would still be instantly killed. The Supreme Being's eyes moved about, carrying ice-cold killing intent. His will was extremely clear, feeling that not even a self-release realm cultivator could be instantly killed. This really was a loss of face. This fella has an extraordinary status in the other side. Even though what we are facing right now is only a single eye, we still cannot act carelessly. Attack together! Devil Leader King's expression was incomparably serious, taking the initiative to release several streaks of terrifying light. Tao Tai King, Old Celestial, Gu Jinluan clan chief, and the self-severing realms sect masters all gave each other a look, nodding at the same time, all of them immediately releasing their most powerful attacks. In that instant, several hundred terrifying attacks gathered, all of them shooting towards the Supreme Being's eye. Ants will still be ants in the end. What use is there no matter how many there are? The Supreme Being's divine will of disdain descended. He released a shout, his eyes turning from black to scarlet red, as if a sea of blood was roiling. Powerful killing intent surged like a great river, engulfing the heavens. Walala, a roiling sea of blood gushed out from the eye. Wherever it passed, the void distorted and collapsed. Chi-La! In that instant, the sea of blood merged with the attacks of countless cultivators. The two sides were in a deadlock. How is this possible? Even after gathering all of our strength, we still aren't his match? Has the Supreme Being already become terrifying to this degree? Even if it is just a single eye, we still cannot contend against him. Damn it! Could it be that we are going to die here before even reaching desolate border? Countless cultivators' divine force all struck into the divine radiance above. However, despite this being the case, they could only slow down the speed at which the sea of blood approached. As time went on, divine force was continuously exhausted. The cultivators' faces gradually turned pale, their auras clearly becoming chaotic as well. Hong Long! Another great noise sounded. Under the roar of the Supreme Being's eye, the sea of blood surged, the terrifying energy contained within rising to another level. It was clear that it didn't expect that seemingly unremarkable primal chaos battle spear to be able to so easily pierce through its sea of blood. As a result, it wasn't on guard at all, pierced through by the battle spear just like that. This is impossible! Soon after, the Supreme Being's eyeball sensed something even more terrifying. Even with its divine force, it actually couldn't force this primal chaos battle spear out. It was stuck in the depths of its eye the entire time. Moreover, this battle spear continuously trembled, the spear tip carrying blazing light, carrying terrifying destructive tearing force, currently quickly erasing its life force. Under the tearing of the primal chaos battle spear, the Supreme Being's eye began to scatter, the originally black pupil also becoming white, releasing a miserable howl. Damn it! There will be a day when we meet again. At that time, this Emperor will definitely tear your corpse into 10,000 pieces, grind your bones to ashes, make you suffer all types of torment, forever unable to reincarnate. The Supreme Being's eyes distorted, glaring fixedly at Chu Bei. A divine will full of killing intent descended, exploding with a pung sound, shaking the earth and mountains, shattering the heavens. What kind of cultivation is needed to do such a thing? The more the sect masters looked, the more shocked they became. This huge city wasn't made of ordinary bricks, but rather refined from great stars. In the end, they were piled together to form this majestic imperial city. Let's enter the city. As soon as the demonic leader king's voice fell, he took the lead and flew into the imperial city. The sect masters recovered from their shock and followed closely behind. Rumble! Chu Bei and the others had just entered the dark city when they were attracted by a series of rumbling sounds. Looking down, they saw that it was a small tribe in the city. Right now, there were several armored warriors fighting intensely with a middle-aged man dressed in beast-skin clothes. One could vaguely hear the angry curses and threats coming from these warriors' mouths. Senior, this is the Sinner's Blood tribe. They didn't listen to the conscription, so they were forcefully arranged. This is a common occurrence. When he saw Chu Bei stop, the demon leader king spoke, his voice carrying respect. Sinner's blood? When he heard the demon leader king's words, Chu Bei narrowed his eyes, his expression becoming a bit ugly. Senior, they were sent here by Sin Province. Your respected self should also know that in the 3,000 Dao provinces, Sin Province's people are all the descendants of traders. That is why normally, they would charge at the very front of the battlefield. The demon leader king continued. What are their surnames? Chu Bei pointed below, calmly looking at the demon leader king. Surname Sure, a great sinner's surname. The demon leader king said as things were. What makes you so sure that they are Sinner's blood descendants? When he heard the surname Sure, Chu Bei's face became more and more overcast. He coldly looked at the demon leader king. Senior, is your respected self related to this stone clan? The demon leader king naturally heard Chu Bei's tone, immediately changing his tone and asking. The Taopai king, Immortal Palace's palace master, and the others behind him also revealed curious expressions. Chu Bei didn't reply to the demon leader king, directly bringing Sure Hao towards the tribe below. On the battlefield, that middle-aged man roared loudly, his aura continuously rising. An ancient sin character was imprinted between his brows, blood energy pervading the air around the symbol. The middle-aged man already ignited his divine flame, his cultivation already at the peak of the true self realm. However, the 6 soldiers surrounding him were similarly true self realm cultivators. As a result, as time went on, the middle-aged man gradually fell into a disadvantageous position, the situation becoming a bit unfavorable. Sir Tian, are you going to openly defy the decree? A soldier shouted loudly, his voice incomparably fierce. Having me enter the battlefield is fine. I have nothing to say. However, my child is only 10 years old, yet you all still want him to enter the battlefield with you. Isn't this going a bit too far? Sure, use innate talent, you all have seen it for yourselves. 10-year-old engravement realm. Forget about the 3,000 Dao provinces, even if we survey the entire 9 heavens 10 earths, whose innate talent can compare to his? As long as he is given time, allowed to grow up, even if he doesn't need 1,000 years, perhaps only 100 years, he will be able to reach that supreme being position. At that time, wouldn't our human race have another unmatched expert overseeing desolate border? Yet now, you all want him to enter the battlefield right now. Isn't this clearly cutting off a future supreme being? I do not agree with the decision made by the higher-ups. The middle-aged man's hair stood up in anger, the sin character between his brows becoming more and more suffused with blood energy, his aura also becoming more and more berserk. Sir, sure you really is still a child. You all are sending him to the battlefield like this, isn't it the same as sending him to his death? After tens of thousands of years, he is our tribe's most talented individual. Please report this to the higher-ups and give him time to grow. Inside the tribe, men dressed in beast skins walked up one after another, begging for help. There was no lack of aged elders among them. Audacious. Openly defying the decree, is your tribe trying to collectively rebel? That soldier released a cold snort, his cold eyes sweeping over the tribesmen who walked up. Father, let me go with them. I won't die on the battlefield. At this time, a gray-clothed boy about 10 years old walked out from the crowd. He met the soldier's gaze without the slightest bit of fear, his small face filled with unswerving determination. Take him away. The leading soldier glanced at the black-clothed boy, then waved his hand at the other soldiers. With me here, don't even think about taking my child away. The middle-aged man shouted angrily, but before he could make a move, a terrifying attack landed on the bodies of those soldiers even faster than him. Pun! With a loud sound, the 3 soldiers who had reached out to grab the 10-year-old boy were suddenly sent flying by a terrifying energy. Poochie! The 3 true First Realm soldiers directly spat out a mouthful of blood. Their bodies streaked across the sky like cannonballs, then fiercely smashed into the ground made of meteorites, creating deep craters one after another. Who is so audacious, actually daring to injure my Jin family soldiers? The sudden turn of events caused the leading soldier's expression to instantly change. He tilted his head and scanned the surroundings, finally his gaze landing on the strange ripples that had appeared in the air. Within the ripples, Chu Bei's group slowly appeared. It's you! The leading soldier of the Jin family coldly stared at Chu Bei, his face surging with cold killing intent. If you don't scram, then die! Chu Bei stood with his hands behind his back, coldly glancing at the remaining 3 soldiers. His indifferent voice did not contain the slightest bit of emotion. Hearing this, the leading soldier was furious. Just as he was about to open his mouth to shout, he sensed an incomparably terrifying pressure enveloping his entire body. Immediately, a wave of coldness surged in his heart, and the curses that had already reached his mouth were forcefully swallowed back down. Let's go! The leading soldier unwillingly glared at Chu Bei, then brought the other 2 soldiers and flew towards the east. Senior, they are Jin family soldiers. In Imperial City, Jin family is a long-life family, and their founder, Jin Taijun, is a supreme being guarding the desolate border. It's not easy to provoke them. While looking in the direction the 3 soldiers flew in, the Devil Leader King took a step forward, and then said, In Imperial City, Jin family is used to dominating. With their nature of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance, they definitely won't let your distinguished self's previous actions go. This one has already given them a chance. If they really don't know how to appreciate kindness, then this one doesn't mind wiping them out. Even though Chu Bei's voice wasn't loud, it was full of unmatched dignity, directly shaking the hearts of these sect masters. Many thanks for benefactor's assistance. The middle-aged man's eyes carried gratitude. After cupping his fist towards Chu Bei and expressing his thanks, a bit of worry appeared on his face. Benefactor, your respected self shouldn't have offended Jin family for us. Master, this disciple's forehead is hurting, as if something is going to come out. Suddenly, Shihao shook Chu Bei's large hand. As soon as his tender voice sounded, the space between his brows suddenly released a dazzling scarlet radiance. In the next moment, under everyone's eyes, bloody mist pervaded the air between Shihao's brows, gradually interweaving into an ancient sin symbol. It was exactly the same as the one between the middle-aged man's brows, but it was even more dazzling and resplendent. Sinner's blood symbol. This is the most dazzling sinner's blood symbol I've ever seen. I never expected this little fella to actually be a sinner's blood descendant. Isn't he Boss Chu's disciple? This means that Boss Chu really does have some kind of connection with the sinner's blood descendant. When they saw the blood-colored sin character appear between Shihao's brows, including the Devil Leader King, Tao Tai King, Old Celestial, and the other overlords, the group of cultivators all revealed expressions of shock. The Stone Clan middle-aged man and Stone Clan villagers on the side also revealed looks of shock. They all looked at Shihao in a stupefied manner, their eyes focusing on the space between Shihao's brows. They were actually momentarily unable to snap back to reality. Little child, what is your surname? An elder walked up and took the initiative to ask while looking at Shihao. Grandpa, my surname is Shih. My name is Shihao. Shihao obediently said. As expected. The elder released a light sigh. The people here still don't know that you have this surname. Hurry and change your name. Also, put away the symbol between your brows. Change my name? Why do I have to change my name? I am just going to be called Shihao. Shihao was extremely stubborn. You are still young, you don't understand anything. Our surname Shi represents sinners. Here, one won't have any good endings, the end result will always be dying on the battlefield. The elder shook his head, his sigh carrying helplessness. Why? Shihao was confused. He raised his head, a look of confusion on his face. Because we are surnamed Shi, we are destined to die in battle. In the past, Stone Clan was one of the most powerful powers in this city, but now, everything has changed. Before the elder spoke, the 10-year-old boy named Shiryu spoke with unwillingness. According to what the boy said, in the most ancient era, Stone Clan's population was great, experts as common as clouds. They had fundamental authority in Imperial Pass. However, an old case was unearthed, and they became sinners' blood descendants. The situation immediately changed. Ever since then, as long as they went out, Stone Clan's people had to be at the very front. Countless clansmen died. No matter how many geniuses they had, how many experts they had, they still couldn't withstand this type of malicious loss. After endless time passed, now, the powerful clansmen had all withered away. Generation after generation passed, a great clan declined. Blood, bones, and tears, it was too unbearable to look back on, it was just too bleak. Now, Stone Clan's population in Emperor City didn't exceed 1,000, and this was still the result of the higher-level figures thinking about their past relationship, doing everything they could to protect them. Otherwise, the clan would have long been wiped out. Master, am I really a sinner's descendant? Shihao raised his head, looking towards Chu Bei. Of course not. Chu Bei picked up Shihao, pinching his cheeks. Then what's with the sin character on my forehead? Shihao asked with a pout. This isn't the symbol of sinner's blood, it represents radiance and glory. It is the glory your ancestors obtained from killing millions and millions of foreign creatures. Chu Bei's lips carried a smile. Radiance and glory? When he heard Chu Bei's words, the elder on the side frowned slightly. Benefactor, does your respected self know about the past events? Hong Long Long. Without waiting for Chu Bei to speak, vicious birds and ferocious beasts spread their wings, flying over from the distant horizon, casting down large amounts of shadows. On top of them sat powerful knights. Soon after, these powerful knights landed in Stone Clan's tribe. Those are Jin family's enforcers. When he saw who it was that came, Shi Tian's expression immediately changed greatly. At the same time, his aura quickly rose to the peak, making preparations to fight at any time. The one at the head of this group of knights looked extremely young, his skin fair. Even though he was male, his entire being was soft and feminine, a bit sickly. He sat on the back of a southernly divine flame rhinoceros. That mount was extremely unordinary, surging with purple energy. Southernly flames curled about it, clearly a divine ancient beast. Why didn't you all receive the decree my Jin family sent down? Are you openly defying the law? Jin Jifei's cold eyes landed on Shi Tian's body, his cold voice carrying killing intent. My son's talent is exceptional, able to reach the Supreme Being level in less than 1,000 years. Yet you all want him to head to the battlefield at the age of 10, what is the meaning of this? Who was the one who sent down this decree? When he faced Jin Jifei's eyes, Shi Tian's face didn't show the slightest trace of fear, only strong hatred. In the most distant era, Stone Clan was Emperor City's #1 emperor clan, yet now, they had already fallen to the point where they had to accept the decree of another, moreover couldn't even resist. This is a decree personally sent down by the ancestor. What? Could it be that you all still want to go against it? Jin Jifei shouted. Turns out it was Jin Taijun. Devil Leader King revealed a look of shock, unable to help but cry out in alarm. As a long-life family, Jin family had many old ancestors, but there was only one who was called the Ancestor, precisely one of Imperial Past's unmatched supreme beings who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. In Imperial Past, she had absolute authority. Even if it was just a casual sentence, it would still be a decree. Jin Jifei's face darkened. Lord Enforcer, he was the one who disregarded the dignity of the Jin family and killed 3 of my subordinates. At this time, one of the warriors behind Jin Jifei pointed his finger at Chu Bei. It was one of the 3 warriors that Chu Bei had let go of. I am still too merciful. Chu Bei shook his head. His voice was as calm as water without any emotion. Then, he glanced at the warrior who spoke. Bang! In an instant, the expressions of the 3 warriors twisted. They were in extreme pain, and before they could even scream, they exploded with a bang. Their flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Damn it! You actually dare kill my Jin family's people in front of my face. Jin Jifei was shocked. When he snapped back to reality, his cold eyes stared at Chu Bei like a viper. Immediately afterwards, his entire body erupted with shocking radiance, especially the space between his brows. It was resplendent and dazzling, as if a sun rose, illuminating the heavens. Benefactor, this Jin Jifei's luck is deep, previously obtaining great natural luck. When he was young, he accidentally ate a rare soul-nurturing divine grass in the great wastelands. Later on, he made it through the divine medicine's effects, surviving. Moreover, under the help of the clan's experts, he refined his soul in every possible way, making his primordial spirit especially powerful. Stone Clan's elder walked up, giving Jin Jifei a serious look. At the same time, he reminded Chu Bei. Because of this, he is proficient in using his primordial spirit to kill. Your respected self has to be careful of his soul attacks. Those who humiliate my Jin family, die. When the cold voice sounded, a little figure walked out from between Jin Jifei's brows. It was resplendent and dazzling, bathed in divine and blazing radiance, as if a heavenly sun was surging. Hong! The little figure trembled, immediately bringing about an intense rumbling sound. The void was torn apart, and a black hole appeared. The scene was horrifying. Just how powerful is this primordial spirit? With just a single thought, it can actually bring about such destructive results. If we resist, I fear that he can wipe out our entire clan by himself. Stone Clan's experts all looked at Jean Jifei in horror. The other party was too domineering, actually directly bringing out his primordial spirit. The little figure swayed slightly, bringing about dong-dong sounds. It was as if the immortal court's war drums were being beaten, intimidating everyone. The faces of those with weaker cultivations immediately paled, their souls suffering from an attack. Compared to the Stone Clan's people, the demon leader king, old celestial being, and the other experts all looked at the Jean family's law enforcer with ridicule, their eyes carrying pity and sympathy. Hurry and look, he really turned into a sun. This is the embodiment of a perfect primordial spirit. The most domineering and yang, powerful beyond compare. The Stone Clan's people's faces became increasingly heavy. Under their gazes, Jean Jifei's little primordial spirit melted, turning into a sun. It slowly rose, making everyone feel an urge to prostrate themselves in worship. This was one of several legendary phenomena. Turning into a sun meant that Jean Jifei's primordial spirit was extremely domineering and powerful. Few people could compare to it. It could be said that Jean Jifei's primordial spirit was the most perfect primordial spirit phenomenon of the self-severing realm. Kill. As the cold syllable fell, Jean Jifei's primordial spirit condensed the soul spear. With a whoosh, it shot directly towards Chu Bei's forehead. Wherever the soul spear passed, a terrifying domain was formed, invisibly distorting space and time. How terrifying! Will our benefactor be able to take it? The Stone Clan's elder's face was pale, and he trembled as he looked at Chu Bei, deep worry on his face. Looking back at Chu Bei, he had been very relaxed from beginning to end. There was still a smile at the corner of his lips, because this Jean Jifei was no different from an ant to him. He didn't need to store up power. He just casually reached out, and with a light wave, the chaotic battle axe easily shattered the soul spear. Then, under the disbelieving gazes of the countless golden-armored knights, it chopped down on Jean Jifei's body. Pun! Before that confident Jean Jifei's expression could change, his flesh and primordial spirit exploded at the same time, directly turning into nothingness. How is this possible? When they saw this scene, the expressions of the remaining Jean family knights changed greatly, fear surging within them. However, before they could flee, that battle axe smashed into their bodies. Now, it seems like the first thing this one did after coming to Desolate Border was to wash away this sinner's blood name. As for this Jean family, if they are wiped out, then so be it. An indifferent voice sounded from Chu Bei's mouth, not only echoing through Stone Clan tribe, but also resounding through all of Imperial Pass. When these words fell, Imperial Pass erupted into commotion. Did you all hear that? Whose voice is this? Who is speaking? Has the one who spoke gone mad? The matter of sinner's blood has already become a taboo topic in the pass, yet he is actually saying that he is going to absolve the sinner. What is even crazier is that he is actually saying that he is going to wipe out Jean family. Jean family is Imperial Pass Emperor clan, a long-life family overseen by an unmatched supreme being. Just what kind of background does this person have? Provoking Jean family, is he tired of living? Within the several tens of thousands of li of Imperial Pass City, Chu Bei's indifferent voice echoed. In that instant, all of the tribes became noisy, cultivators discussing spiritedly one after another, their faces full of shock, carrying shock. They didn't dare believe that there was actually someone who dared challenge Jean family's dignity in Imperial Pass City. In Stone Clan tribe, the Stone Clansmen's expressions were stupefied, a bit stupefied as they looked at Chu Bei. Apart from gratitude, there was even more shock. Their shock didn't only come from the other party's terrifying strength of casually killing the self-severing realm Jin Jifei. It was even more so because of the other party's indifferent words that drifted into the distance. Devil Leader King, Tao Tai King, Old Celestial and the other self-release realm cultivators also revealed expressions of disbelief. They never would have thought that this boss Chu would actually stir up such a huge commotion as soon as he arrived in Imperial Pass City. Not only did he want to wipe out the sinner's blood, he even directly said that he was going to wipe out Jin family. Benefactor, the sinner's blood descendant matter has already been decided. We have also accepted this result. Your respected self cannot make those long-life families your enemy for us. Their backing is too terrifying. Stone Clan's elder walked up, bowing towards Chu Bei. What this great one is doing isn't only for you all, but even more so for the lower realm, for Sin Province, for my precious disciple. Chu Bei smiled calmly, patting Sure Hao's little head. Old ancestor, this Jin family has an important position in Imperial Pass, an indispensable power in Desolate Border. Your respected self cannot be rash. Different from Stone Clan's worries, Devil Leader King and the other sect masters seemed to be more worried that Chu Bei would weaken the 9 Heavens 10 Earth's defensive power. If what this great one said is correct, they have never fought on the front lines, right? They are only flaunting their might in Imperial Pass. What is the point of having this type of family? Nothing more than a vermin. If the top-level fighting strength isn't enough, then this great one will replace this Jin Taijuan's position. As for the sinner's blood matter, it is time to obtain justice for those little fellas from back then. Chu Bei's eyes calmly swept forward, full of unmatched dignity. When these indifferent words sounded, with a wave of his sleeve, primal chaos rippled outwards. In the blink of an eye, including Devil Leader King and the other sect masters, Stone Clan's elder, everyone disappeared. Emperor City was divided into an inner city and an outer city. The outer city was gathered in the form of tribes, thousands of different surnamed tribes of different sizes living here. Meanwhile, the inner city, compared to the outer city, even though it was much smaller, there were several emperor clans living here, no lack of long-life families. Because the descendants of those unmatched primogenitors lived in the inner city since birth, the inner city was far more bustling than the outer city. There were many open markets, bustling with activity. Great winds roared, stirring up Imperial Pass winds and clouds. Chu Bei brought Devil Leader King and the others, crossing 10,000 li with a single step. Wherever they passed, fragments would fly about, the sun, moon, and stellar streams moving, the scene grand, or boundless. Benefactor, your respected self, what cultivation realm are you at exactly? Stone Clan's elder was stuttering. The other party actually created such a shocking scene with just a single step. In the blink of an eye, their group appeared above a boundless great earth in the inner city. Below, dragons and snakes rose from the land, Qilins crouching on the mountains, phoenixes flying on the cliffs, auspicious energy surging. Of course, the so-called dragons and snakes weren't true dragons, but rather giant mountains. Those giant mountain ranges that were like the backbone of heaven and earth wriggled about one after another, side by side, swirling with immortal white mist, as if dragons and snakes were rising together. As for those great peaks, they were like Qilins, purple energy rising in spirals, dense mists rising, covered in zoysia, full of auspicious and divine feeling. The cliffs were precipitous, as if phoenixes were flying one after another, carrying a transcendent feeling. This was especially the case with some caves on the cliffs that released multicolored light, as if wings were unfolding. This was one of Imperial Pass' most well-known Emperor Clan caves. It belonged to Jin family, known as Long Life Golden Manor. In the past, there were long-life beings who emerged here, unbreakable through all tribulations, eternally undying. In immortal ancient great era, this family was powerful to the extreme, still glorious and brilliant even in this age. After endless time passed, no one dared to behave atrociously, not even emperor clans willing to provoke them. Senior, please think thrice before you act. Jin family is a long-life family. The demon leader king stood behind Chu Bei, continuously advising. The great earth was boundless, ancient trees towering into the heavens, all types of divine birds and vicious beasts moving about. In the skies there were even more divine birds and demonic birds spreading their wings, dancing together. Demon Leader King, you actually dare trespass into Gene family's territory! Do you want to die? At this time, a deep and cold shout sounded from the mountain range below. They only saw a purple-gold violent ape that was 100 jang tall, in its hands a war spear, jumping out from the mountain forests below. The great earth immediately began to shake. This violent ape's entire body's purple fur was shining, as if cast from metal, extremely ferocious. This was, without a doubt, a great wasteland descendant, extremely powerful. Right now, its large eyes were coldly staring at the Demon Leader King, killing intent surging. Senior, it is Gene family's guardian beast. The Demon Leader King shot the purple-gold violent ape a look, and then said respectfully to Chu Bei. Chu Bei nodded slightly, calmly looking forward. There was an ancient great defensive formation there, surrounding Gene family's core region. Trespassers must all die! Realizing that it was being ignored, the purple-gold violent ape roared in anger. After its violent roar, the purple-gold violent ape punched through the void towards Chu Bei's group. Chu Bei glanced at the purple-gold violent ape. Without saying anything, he waved his sleeve. Then, his 18th level Xiaohei's strength was still there. This was equivalent to a real immortal strength. Immediately, a shrill cry filled the sky. The powerful violent ape puked out blood, its entire body cracked, and with a boom, it was flung out for thousands of miles, disappearing into the sky. Oh my God! What kind of old monster is here? That is Gene family's guardian beast. Rumor has it that it has been at the peak of the self-severing realm for a long time and is about to break through. But before this person, it was flung away like a puppet. What kind of difference is this? The difference between cloud and mud. Just who is he? Could it be that he was the one who threatened to destroy Gene family? The ones following behind him seemed to be extremely powerful as well. Apart from the Demon Leader King, there seemed to be 8 other terrifying self-release realm existences. Could it be that these people came from another long-life family? If this really is the case, then Imperial Pass is going to change. Outside the mountain range, powerful cultivators stuck their heads out one after another, their faces carrying expressions of shock. Their eyes landed on Chu Bei's group, sizing them up. Chu Bei didn't pay these surrounding people any attention. After casually eliminating the purple-gold violent ape, he appeared in front of the ancient Great Formation. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.